Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody doing? Feeling good? Feeling lively. I know I am. Welcome. Welcome to the day. Welcome. Yeah, can you imagine we just do the whole stream like a radio show? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I don't know what radio people sound like. Howard Stern? I could do the Howard Stern and just like, why don't you get out here and just like take your clothes off? Why do we do that? That's my perception of Howard Stern. That's most of what Howard Stern's show is. I haven't listened to it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not familiar with Howard Stern. Forgive me. Forgive me. It's one of my faults. One of my many faults. I'm not overly familiar with Howard Stern. Anyway, how are you guys doing? You doing good? Feeling good? Feeling good on a Wednesday. Sparkling thoughts. Give me the hope to go on. I'm trying to change these lights. I feel like, nah, strobing is gross. Gradient, or let's just do blue. Match it to the back. That works. That'll do. Okay. Anyway, hi everybody. Hi. Playing some RDR2 while listening to the podcast. How's everybody else? Anybody gaming? Ooh. Some nice relaxing Red Dead hits the spot. I'll tell you what. I do like me some Red Dead. Rocky would be proud of me. The other night I booted up Destiny 2 to do some tutorial sections. In like the first hour or two. It's pretty good. I will say I ran into a problem where it tried to force HDR. So the game thought it was running in HDR, and my monitor thought it was displaying HDR, but it was just like super blown out and gross. It was really, really weird. I had to like manually change the game settings in the like INI file, and then I had to reboot the whole computer and the monitor, and then it worked fine. But it was really weird. I've had that problem with another game, I don't remember which, but I've had that problem before. I don't know, HDR support on Windows is so trash. It's horrible. It's a disaster. Molly, update 2. My pet rock is wanted internationally for Grand Theft Auto and racketeering. That thing, you know what? That pet rock, I'll tell you what, it just has to learn everything the hard way. Can't take anything for granted. I'm playing GTA Online. Lol, forget RDO. That game is boring AF. Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, it's pretty clear they abandoned the hell out of Red Dead Online. It's really sad because they could have done a lot of really cool stuff, but they just bailed on it. Which, I mean, what are you gonna do? They decided to just walk away from it. Sucks, but not much you can do now. What's done is done. What's done is done. And yes, we started like 15 minutes late today. I'm very sorry. We have a video going up today, but we were reviewing it before the stream, and there were a couple of little tweaks we had to make just because I'm a perfectionist and a jerk. So I'm having Jacob make those tweaks, and then we're going to put it up. So we'll do that. But anyway. Let's see. I feel like it had so much potential. Oh, it really did, but I don't know. They just stopped even trying pretty quickly too. I don't know if it was like, I don't know if it was that they experimented with it. Oh, funny enough, I'm being recommended a video right now. Red Dead Online, the sad story of Red Dead Online. I don't know if it was that they launched it and then they viewed like numbers and then were disappointed at how the numbers were and then decided to abandon, or if they just like never really intended to put the effort in. Because it seems like there never really was a lot there. You know, it seems like they walked away and they abandoned it pretty quick. Or am I just crazy? I don't think they ever had any big like expansions or anything. They just didn't even try. By the way, weird thing, this stream, the title is Cyberpunk 2077 Overdrive Mode Tested. The game we're playing is set to Overdrive, or Cyberpunk, and you can see in the description box, there's like very little there to be controversial. And YouTube flagged this whole stream as not suitable for advertisers before it even began. I don't know why. Normally, like, if that happens, there's like a reason. You could be like, oh, well, I put something like really cringy in the description box or something. Like, I get it. Maybe that's what it is. But no, in this case, I really don't know what they're looking at to determine that. I really don't understand it. And so I can file a manual request review, but it's like they say it's going to take up to 7 days to process. It's ridiculous. Anyway, typical YouTube. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. Too many dongs in the game. I suppose so. If it were The Witcher 3, I would get that more, but Overdrive in all caps, maybe. Is overdrive a controversial like phrase? Is that considered like a no-no word? Maybe I should just change it to lowercase. Overdrive. Overdrive mode. There we go. That's way less toxic, right? That's way less toxic. Anyway, gonna fix my car, so I'll be back in a couple of hours. Sounds good, Kimbis. Good luck. Car stuff sucks. I don't think Rockstar wanted to prolong RDO like they did with GTAO, unless RDO became extremely successful like GTA. But who knows? I mean, I would agree, Lewis, but it's also like, they're not going to have that player base without even trying. Like, especially online stuff, you have to convince players to commit to a game. You don't get to just like launch your game and then have millions of players that drop every other multiplayer game they're playing. Like, you gotta ease them into it. So it's just stupid that they launch it and then like, it's not as good as GTA Online, and they bail. You know, it's just dumb. Taking my allergy medication. GTA is such a high bar. Shareholders are probably breathing down their necks. Yeah, but at the same time, it's also like, it's like, usually, so financials are usually reported on a quarterly basis, right? So your financials come in and they have 3 months basically to figure it out and to share information on how the game is doing, blah, blah, blah. But for whatever reason, let me put this here. But for whatever reason with Red Dead Online, they just seem to like try to put it up and then they bailed on it immediately. It was really, really weird. They could have done well. They could have made it, but there we go. That's good. Ooh, there we go. Anyway, path tracing is a scam. Nick's trying to trigger me by throwing out the word scam randomly. I see what I'm onto you. I'm onto you. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. Don't get it twisted. Anyway, Luke, did you hear that Redfall is going to be 30 FPS on Xbox? No. Hold on. Redfall 30 FPS? Okay, you can't do this to me. The number one recommended video is Dreamcast guy. You don't make me watch Don't make me watch that. Like, please. Also, like, even in the thumbnail, he's doing the L backwards, guys. He's doing the L backwards in the thumbnail. I'm sorry. It's just such a good little detail of just being like slightly off. It just doesn't quite work. Man, because like, you know, depending on which finger you hold up, it's either the right way, so it looks like the L on your screen, or it's backwards. He did it backwards, and then he still decided to use that for the thumbnail. That's amazing. I'm baffled. There's got to be, okay, let's just search Redfall 30 FPS. In quality mode? Okay, you guys are throwing fits about stupid stuff. Are you kidding me? You're throwing a fit over the 30 FPS in quality mode? Get out of here. What the hell are you guys talking about? Series S, it runs at in quality mode at 1440p 30. So performance mode is coming later. Okay, so that's what you're upset about, is no performance mode. I get that. I thought it was just going to be like, yeah, there's a quality mode and it's 30 FPS at quality mode. And I was like, lay up, like dry up, guys. What are you talking about? You're throwing a fit over that. But wow, they are not bringing performance mode on day one. That's an oopsie. That's an oopsie. At least for nowadays. Will I don't know if Xbox players will really care, but I don't know. I'm interested in what Maddie says about this. I don't know. Yeah, that's weird. Well, to need me, he needs to pay attention. Rocky, baby, boo boo. Let's see. Maddie already tweeted, just delay the game. Hold on. Okay, let's see. Mr. Maddie. Oh, also Carrick. While I don't know anyone surprised by this after seeing the footage and the other content, 60 FPS mode is warranted for this game and the action they're pushing. The Redfall's PR hits keep coming. Yeah, for real. Oh, well, yeah, his username is G27 status. Why is Twitch or Twitter so slow right now? It's like really chugging. I'm not updating anything, right? No. Oh, man. This is rough, man. This is rough. Because, again, a lot of this comes down to what current expectations are. The modern expectations are that there's at least a 60 FPS mode. At least. I meant, you want me to install Destiny again? Yeah, Rocky, I assumed you would have still had it. But yeah, I have Destiny 2 installed, and I'm trying to play it in my spare time. But yeah, definitely install it. Twitter algorithm's been broken too. I did see that they updated Twitter Blue to allow you to post like 10,000 character posts, which is insane, but just turning Twitter slowly into Facebook. But anyway, so the whole thing is that people are expecting Redfall to launch with performance mode because every game on modern consoles has been launching with performance mode. That's just what people have come to expect. And when people expect something and they don't get it, they're disappointed. It's like, it goes back to Machiavellian leadership descriptions, like in that book, The Prince, that we all read in high school. If somebody expects something and then they get it, they're not that thrilled. If somebody expects something and they don't get it, they're livid. However, if they don't expect something and they get it, they're all the more surprised and happy and thankful. And then also, if they don't expect something and they don't get it, they're not going to be that bummed because they didn't, no harm, no foul. And in this case, this is just a classic example of the broader gaming community and industry right now expects 60 FPS. They expect a performance mode. It's understood that the graphical settings will be, brought down a few notches, that there's going to be lower resolutions. There's going to be sacrifices made to get that 60 FPS. But that's the expectation people have. And to confidently come out and just be like, yeah, well, we're going to do 30 FPS on everything, and then we'll do a performance mode later. I mean, it's just a bad look. It's just a bad look. And like I said, some of the best games in history, like full stop, have been 30 FPS. Let me be very clear. Like Red Dead 2 launched at 30 FPS. Breath of the Wild, 30 FPS. Like some of the best games I've ever played were 30 FPS. However, those games were in the last console generation. Those games were years and years ago. Now, the expectation is that they run at higher frame rates. That's just what people expect. So, it's an oopsie. And it doesn't change the fact that the perception now is that they can't get this thing optimized enough to run at 60, which concerns a lot of people. And what Carrick was saying is that based on the stuff he was seeing, the footage and other stuff they've shown off, it didn't look like this was a super well optimized game, and it looks like this is yet another confirmation of that, unfortunately. But what are you going to do? Colin Moriarty mentioned in a podcast that a dev told him that the analytics show that some absurd amount of players choose to play on 30 FPS, which is crazy to me. That would be really, really interesting. If they actually shared that info, I would be super interested in hearing about that, because if it is the case that there's just a huge majority of players that prefer 30 because they like their games to look better, that'd be wild. I mean, I'll say for some games I prefer the 30 if I have to choose between 60 and 30, and the quality mode is that much better. I'm fine with that. Like even something like God of War Ragnarok, that was something where the combat and the controller scheme, honestly, there's enough delay in it, there's enough there that I didn't feel weird going to quality mode. Most of it I played in performance because I wanted to capture it in 60 for the critique, blah, blah, blah. But I thought quality mode was very, very playable and was pretty solid. However, that'd be really interesting if there are stats that show that. And it just turns out that the 60 FPS snobs are just really, really vocal on social media. You know, that'd be crazy. Let's see. To be honest, 30 FPS didn't bother me a bit in The Last of Us 2 on PS4. Yeah, well, Sebi, like, for some games, the FPS don't bother me. For others, it really does. For a game like Ghost of Tsushima, I tried to play it at 30 FPS when it launched on like PS4 Pro, and I couldn't really get into it because the combat was so fast paced. It wasn't clicking with me. But the moment I was able to play that at 60 on the PS5, oh baby, I blasted through that game. It's one of my favorites. It's awesome. But my brain couldn't connect with it until I got that 60. So 30 FPS with motion blur makes me physically sick. It can, yeah. Well, when I went back to, speaking of The Last of Us Part 2, when I went back to The Last of Us Part 2 and tried playing at 30 on a PS4 Pro, after playing it at 60 on the PS5, man, I felt like it was bad. Yeah. Because, you know, you had tasted the forbidden fruit. You had seen what it was like on the other side. Yeah, first-person shooters don't work too hot at 30. And that's why, especially for a game like Redfall, the 60 FPS performance mode is kind of a necessary option. Just frankly, like, if you're trying to sell the game on having fast-paced shooter mechanics, you gotta come out with a performance mode, in my mind, for modern players. People just expect it. And then to not bring it is just a bad look. I wanted Redfall to be good too. It might be. A game can be great and run at 30 FPS. That's fine. It's very possible. But when people's expectations are that it's going to come with 60 and then they come with 30, people will be disappointed no matter what. Even if the game is amazing. Like if they announced that Half-Life 3 was coming, finally, but it's coming at 30 FPS, people would riot. It's still probably going to be one of the best games, like best shooters ever made. It's still going to be amazing, but it failed to live up to that expectation. This is why expectations are so crucial. Like, it's why people get on my case when I'm like, hey, let's keep expectations in check. Let's look at this skeptically and more rationally. People lose their minds because they like being excited. But the thing is, if you like freak out and like you're expecting X, Y, and Z, and they give you X and Y, but they don't give you Z, people will still be upset and feel like they were robbed or something was taken because their expectations got so out of whack. Nell, sounds good. Drive safe. Alex was Half-Life 3. I mean, I guess if you want to be pedantic, it's like the third, but you could also say that like all of the expansions and stuff. When I say Half-Life 3, you know what I mean, okay? Don't be stupid. You know what I mean. Heaven forbid you're realistic about games these days. Exactly, Clarity. It's just, I don't know what it is. Going back to the Hogwarts Legacy thing, what somebody said, I think it was on a subreddit or something. Maybe it was on a comment section on like Retro's channel. It was something like that, where somebody commented, and it was right before the game's launch, right before all the reviews came out. And it was somebody that just in a moment of clarity and honesty said, listen, guys, even if Hogwarts Legacy sucks. I won't be sad that I was this hyped for it, because I've had a great time being so excited, being so pumped for this thing. And that's a different mentality than I have. My brain does not work that way. I look at it and I'm like, well, if the game sucks, yeah, I'd be pissed that I spent months of my life like hyping it up and promoting it and getting excited over it and talking about it, thinking about it constantly. I'd be kind of pissed. But for some people, it's more about the ride, you know? It's they're there for the ride. Yeah, Undead Fish Cake. I was the same for Cyberpunk. Yeah, you got to take that copium. It's just, I understand it. I understand it. People like being excited. Everybody likes being excited for something. I enjoy the feeling of being excited for like a trip or going to like on vacation or something. The excitement often is just as much fun as the actual activity. But when the thing you're excited for ends up sucking, I wouldn't like excuse that. I'm like, well, you know, it's about the journey. Like, no, screw that. That sucked. My expectations were out of whack, so now I feel robbed. Like, especially the difference is when you could have known differently. And I think that's the crucial bit. For Hogwarts Legacy, there were signs and things to say like, okay, this is not going to be a perfect 10 out of 10 masterpiece. It's going to have some issues, and it's probably going to be a great 8 out of 10 game. Like a pretty good 8 out of 10 game. And because I went into the game expecting that, my expectations were in check, and I ended up having a really, really good time with it. However, a lot of people went in expecting it to be much more of a class simulator game or like a student simulation game, and so they were disappointed because you are basically a student for 5 hours and then you're just not. And, you know, so people had different expectations and it got out of whack. But I don't know. It's just the whole thing with hype. I get it. People like being excited for stuff, but sometimes a little bit of chill doesn't hurt. But people act like you're a hater, or you're just trying to piss people off or be a Debbie Downer or be negative. And you're like, no, I'm trying to help you, weirdly enough. For Cyberpunk 2077, this is what I was going to say before I spaced it. For Cyberpunk 2077, the difference between that and something like Hogwarts Legacy, or something like, I don't know, what was another game that like really disappointed people? I don't know. What's an example, guys? Something that disappointed you recently. A game that just didn't live up to the hype. Resident Evil 3 remake. Yeah, that's true. It's just super, super short. Avengers, Anthem, Saints Row. Was anybody excited for Saints Row, though? Like, I don't know a single person that was excited for it. Forspoken, same thing. I think everybody knew that was... Well, I mean, we could even go Gotham Knights. Yeah, we could go with Gotham Knights. So, like, Gotham Knights. There were a lot of warning signs with Gotham Knights. The cringy dialogue that they were writing, the weird stuttering and performance issues that they even showed in gameplay they were revealing before the game launched. So it's like, okay, there's concerning stuff here. There's weird stuff. The lighting engine looked weird. The combat looked kind of weird. There were all these problems that were clearly visible. So if somebody went into that game expecting it to be Game of the Year and expecting it to be amazing, I have very little sympathy for them. Because the warning signs were there. If you were looking at it critically, you could have seen all of those warning signs. The difference between that and something like Cyberpunk 2077 is that Cyberpunk, they did a very good job of hiding the issues. And it was, in my mind, it was very deceptive, which is why I haven't just rolled over and forgiven them for it. Because a game can, like, launch broken, and then if they patch it, to me, in my mind, and tell me if I'm crazy, I want to hear your thoughts on this in chat, but in my mind, if they launch a broken product and then fix it over the next few months to where it should have been on launch day, maybe with a couple of extra little bonuses and perks in there, in my mind, that doesn't forgive what they did. I'm not back to square one. Like, I'm not back to just where I was before. Oh, well, they fixed it, so we're good. No, because they sold me a broken pile of garbage. They knew it was a broken pile of garbage, and they didn't care. And they still sold it to me anyways, hand-waving it away and saying, oh, we'll fix it later. And to me, that's not okay. It's just not okay. It's like if a car dealership sells you a car that's a broken pile of garbage, and then when you bring it back and throw a fit, they finally say, fine, we'll fix it. And after weeks and weeks of work, it's fixed. Am I going to recommend that car dealership to somebody? No. Am I going to go back to that car dealership for my next car? No. It's going to take a hell of a lot more than just getting it to where it should have been to win me back over. And in the case of Cyberpunk, that was something where they intentionally, I would say, sold me the broken car. They knew it was broken, which is why they sent it to only select reviewers. They made it so reviewers could only share B-roll. They couldn't even share their own gameplay. They did all of this knowing that it was broken, and they didn't care. And to this day, I mean, apparently they've sold over 20 million copies of Cyberpunk, and that class action lawsuit, I just saw this before we started streaming, that class action lawsuit filed against CDPR over this whole thing, they settled for like $1.85 million. $1.85 million. Now, if we do some big brain math here, okay? Big brain math. $1.85 million. And bear in mind, there are like lawyers' fees and stuff built into this, but $1.85 million. And we go and we just divide that by $60. How many copies of Cyberpunk did they need to sell? And I know that there's like the Steam cut of the sale, and there's PlayStation fees and Xbox fees for listing, but just like, let's make it super simple. If we divide that by 60, how many copies does it take to make that up? 30,000. Now, I'm not a genius, but if I take 20 million and I subtract 30,833.33, that still leaves a lot of money. This did not hurt them at all. At all. So I don't think that Cyberpunk was that big of a hit to CDPR. Yeah, the bad press was an oopsie. Yeah, their stock price took a bit of a hit. But it started to recover pretty quickly, and people have like moved on. And now what you see with the Overdrive stuff and all of the things that they're doing now, all of that makes it pretty clear that the broader gaming public is ready to just kind of, whatever, and move on. And this is something I've debated with a lot of other YouTubers about, to be clear. So this is something like I get in fights with other YouTubers and streamers on pretty frequently, where some people like Maddie, I've said this with Maddie and Bethesda, Maddie is willing to give BGS the benefit of the doubt because they've done a lot of work to try and fix Fallout 76. So when he looks at Starfield, he is fine with still getting excited and hyped because he thinks that they've done a lot of work to try and win people back. For me, I do not give them any sort of benefit of the doubt. For me, I look at that and I go, nope, you're going to have to do a heck of a lot more to win me back over. Because what they did for Fallout 76 was like actually criminal as far as I'm concerned. Like it was, I think what they did was bad enough that there should have been like serious investigations. Every facet of that game is a disaster, but that's just me. It's my opinion. So I'm not willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. And same thing with Cyberpunk and CDPR. One of my favorite devs made my favorite game ever, The Witcher 3. I love the devs at CDPR, but the management scammed you. Like, this is what I don't get. Like, people are like, oh, well, no, it's It's fine. They gave me some DLC and they brought native path tracing, so we're good. I'm like, guys, they basically tried to steal your money. They sold you a broken pile of garbage and tried to hide it from you. Why are you just okay with that? You should be more upset than me. You should be livid. Because at least, like, I do this for a living, so I can at least write off as an expense of the business the money I spent on the game. But you can't. Unless you're also like a YouTuber and streamer. But like you don't have that built-in, like, oh, well, it's not that bad because I got content out of it. No, like they just straight up, they knew they were going to take your money for something that wasn't ready. And they didn't care. You should be pissed. You should be really pissed. CEO Marcin Nowinski stepped down. Yeah, to me, that's more stock pressure. Stock or board of director pressure as a result of the stock drop. But he still holds a ton of stock in the company. You know, it's not like he dumped his shares. So I just ate so many waffles. I'm jealous, Molly. I would kill for some waffles right now. That sounds so good. Just post the post-launch fixing roadmap along with the first trailer. At least we know how long it will take for the final game. Yeah, well, and this is why everybody keeps going like, why do we keep getting broken PC ports? This is why. Like, these games can launch. And they can have returns. They can have all sorts of things happen. But this, I mean, and also bear in mind that this is still units sold. If we multiply that by 60 to get like total revenue, it's very likely that Cyberpunk has already sold over $1 billion worth of revenue. Like they've moved $1 billion worth of stuff, which is crazy. So like this, you would think that Cyberpunk would be like a major flop and CDPR would be miserable and totally screwed after this horrible launch. No, it worked out for them quite well. They kind of demonstrated the idea that there's no such thing as bad press. And I'm a little conflicted on it because on the one hand, I want to hold their feet to the fire. But on the other hand, like if I critique the game and I say, hey, listen, there's a pretty good game here. It's just that it's a bit of it's wrapped in a dog turd shell. You know, it's just tricky. I don't know what to do about it. I adore CDPR, but if they were willing to launch it broken, what about Witcher 4, Phantom Liberty? Hell, they tried it with the Witcher 3 next gen update. Yes, Crimson, exactly. And people forget because the Witcher 3 only really gained popularity after the disappointment of Fallout 4. Because word of mouth traveled and everybody was like, you got to try the Witcher 3, man. You were disappointed at the RPG stuff in Fallout 4. Go try the Witcher 3. It's awesome. And so people went and they tried The Witcher 3 and it ended up being awesome. But what people don't remember is that The Witcher 3 launched pretty broken. It was also a technical disaster for a lot of people. For some people, they launched it and they had no problem at all. For a lot of other people, they launched it and they could not get the game running. They had weird AI issues. They had pop-in. They had terrible frame rates, horrible optimization. And then they spent 6 months fixing it and then it got better. And that's when the wave of players came in to try it for the first time. Exactly, Renzi. Yeah, The Witcher was buggy as hell at launch. Exactly. But people don't remember that because they got into it after it had been fixed. So people just assumed it was always pretty good, but it wasn't. It wasn't. And you got to remember that. So this is a repeated thing for CDPR. It's been a steady state thing that they've continually launched kind of busted stuff time and again. And I get it, they're big games. I get it, it's hard to do this, but it's literally your job. People get on me for that. It's so stupid to me. It always amazes me. People like throw fits over this and they're like, Luke, you should cut them a break. It's really hard to make an open world adventure game like Cyberpunk without bugs and glitches. It's really tough. And I'm like, I don't care. It's your job. You're charging me $70 for the damn thing. Why should I give you like, well, you're trying your best. I'm not your grandmother. Sit down and chill out. Lay off me. You're taking my money. If I was taking your money, okay, I'll be a little bit more gentle. I'll be more understanding. If you're my child and this is your first try, Okay. If you're like my little son, my 18-month-old son, if he goes down the slide and he just biffs it and then like kind of rolls and then lands in the wood chips below, I'm gonna not make fun of him. I'm gonna be like, oh buddy, it's okay, because he's my child and he tried his best, but he had like a little tumble, a little accident. Oopsie daisy, it happens. If you're a multi-billion-dollar company and you do that where you fall face first into the wood chips, I'm not going to be like, oh, sweetie, it's okay. Because you're doing that at the same time as trying to take my money. So if you do that, I'm going to laugh at you and be like, what the hell are you doing, dumbass? Get up. That was stupid. Because you're being dumb. And this is your job. And you failed. And I get to mock you for it. It's just so infuriating when people selectively make these weird excuses for giga corporations that do not have your best interests at heart. Don't think that that's it for a second. Like, what are you talking about? When people are like, oh, I just really want to support like Xbox, or I really want to support Sony in this case, so I'm buying 3 copies of the game, even though it launched broken and is a disaster. It's like, chill out. They don't care about you. So stop this madness. Just dumb. Yeah. What keyboard do I have? It's a Keychron Q6. It weighs like 10 freaking pounds. It's awesome. It's like going to a restaurant and getting an uncooked dish and say, it's so hard to cook that. Exactly, Mauer. If you go to a restaurant, or like you order sushi, and they bring you like a terrible selection of fish meat, and the rice is undercooked, so it's all hard, and then the seaweed, they forgot to steam it, so it's just disgusting and it's horrible, and it tastes like salmonella and whatever else stuff you can get from bad sushi. And then when you talk to the chef's like, well, it's really hard to make sushi. It's just really hard. And then he hands you your bill. Do you think I'm going to just roll over and be like, you're right, it is hard. 20% tip. Like, no. Maybe for the waiter. The waiter gets a tip because it wasn't their fault. But the cook, the chef, is not getting any sort of special treatment because it's literally your job. Like, stop making these weird, stupid excuses. It's so dumb. I think bugs affect some more than others. For sure, Kiji. Yeah, I agree. There's some people that have a gift for tuning out bugs. I was watching, I think it was years ago. It was a long time ago. Mr. Matty Plays was streaming Fallout New Vegas. Yeah, this was a while back. I think I was still in college at the time. But he was streaming Fallout New Vegas, and he was talking about how he has a really high tolerance for bugs. And I'm just like, I haven't pulled up on a second monitor. I was doing something at the time. And in the periphery of my vision, I can see stuff like breaking. I can see the weird like popping. I see characters walking in place, but still with their legs moving in the animation, but they're not moving forward, you know, that kind of stuff. All these bugs. And he's just walking straight through. And he's like, he's reading chat, and somebody's like, did you see that guy walking? Did you see that? Did you see that? And people in chat are pointing it out to him, all these bugs. He's like, honestly, dude, I just kind of tuned it out. Haven't seen it. Because he gets those Bethesda blinders on. And honestly, when I play BGS games, I do the same thing. When I play Obsidian games that are buggy, I get those blinders on too. Because you kind of have to if you want to enjoy the game. You put the blinders on, you don't see the bugs, and you just tune it out. And that's okay. Some people have that ability, and that's a talent, I think, because you'll enjoy a lot more quirky games that maybe are not as refined, but you gotta work up to it, you know. I don't know. Titanic looking big in that, yeah. This thing's massive, dude. This thing is ridiculous. Like, look at this. This is outrageous. And you can separate it out. So take the pieces apart. Yeah, nice and long. You can take it apart to look at the different decks inside. It's kind of crazy. And then I drop it. Oh man, I hope they do something else cool for the next big Lego set. The Titanic was awesome. Hogwarts was awesome. I'm not big into the Eiffel Tower set. It's like uncomfortably large. It's like this tall, and it's like 3 feet wide, or sorry, a meter wide. It's just not very practical. I don't even know where you put it. Whereas this stuff I can fit on shelves, and like it looks nice in the background. So they do basically one huge set targeted towards adults every year. This past year was the Eiffel Tower. The year before that was, I believe, the Titanic. The year before that was the Colosseum. I don't know what was before that, but that might have been the first one. But I'm excited to see what they do this year. Will you put it back Lego in the box and make it again? Oh, just like smash it and rebuild it? No. This thing, we built it on stream this past fall. This thing took weeks of work. Like, you guys were here. Like, for 2 weeks, we were, every stream, I was working on it. And it was a process. What if baby drops it? I'd be more worried about the baby than this thing. Like, the Hogwarts castle is pretty flimsy. It's pretty loose. These two pieces separate, so they connect right here where my fingers are. And so you can separate those two pieces out. And I think this thing would fall apart really, really quickly. The Titanic, it's taking a kid out. This thing weighs a lot. Did you see the Lego McLaren F1? It's pretty dope. I have not seen that. Well, actually, wait, I think I have. Right as I say that, I'm like, actually, that does ring a bell. Yeah, the McLaren Formula One. This one, I don't know. This one doesn't really call to me. It's cool looking, but for $200, I think there's better sets out there. It's not very big. I think you're paying a lot for the branding, you know? Whereas like the Eiffel, I think that's how you spell Eiffel Tower. Yeah, Eiffel. Like, this thing is outrageous. This is what it looks like for a grown adult. Like, come on. Come on, dude. Where am I gonna put that? Like, what am I even gonna do with that? That's outrageous. Like, no joke. If that were in here, it's probably touching the ceiling if I put it on this. You wouldn't even see most of it in the frame. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's for architecture students. Well, the other thing is, sets like these aren't usually that fun to build. Because they're super samey. All the pieces are the same color. You're building the same thing over and over again. Just, you know, in this case, you're building 4 of pretty much everything as the tower goes up. So I don't even think it would be very fun to put together. I think it would just be kind of tedious and probably a little annoying. Yeah, dude, it's 5 feet tall. Yeah, I was off with the 3 feet thing. It's just under 2 feet wide, but still, man, that's outrageous. So this was theirs for this year. I don't know what the next one is going to be. You have a limit of 3. You can only order 3 at a time. Can you imagine just being such a Lego tryhard? You order 3 of those at a time. Loop coaster? Does it actually work? Why is my watch is going off? Yeah, anyway. No, Luke, you don't need more Legos. You don't need more Legos. I have to, these are my daily affirmations. I have to reinforce. I'd build it just for my cat to drop it. Once you get to the like big ones, the cats aren't knocking these off. What they're doing is they're scratching the corners of their mouths on the little pieces that pop off. So like on the Hogwarts castle, like this. On the tower, there's this little green piece, and this little green piece the cats love to scratch on. So they'll rub the corners of their mouths on it, and then this pops off and goes flying. So you'll just come down randomly and miss parts of the castle. It's ridiculous. So that's the problem with the cats. Other than that, they can't really do much to them because they're massive. Anyway, first world problems, right? First world problems. Let's see. Will you be reacting to PlayStation State of Play? When is that? I didn't think it was announced yet. Did it get announced? Hello? Hello? It's Babe and Baby. Oh yeah, everybody like the stream. Like the stream for the baby. Hello. Say hi, everybody. Hi. Hi, everybody. How's it going?
Good, we're about to leave.
Oh, you're about to leave? Where are you gonna go?
Drop off your packages.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's a good trip. Hi, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah. Oh, you want to turn it on? This is like his favorite thing. He runs in front of it, gets blasted with the air, and then runs off. Yeah, it's so funny. Oh, yeah. It's the simple things. Wow. That's pretty fun.
Hey. Put that back, please. Okay, Lucky. We're gonna turn it off so we can go bye-bye, okay?
He's like, I don't know if I can.
Say-
Can I have a hug?
Can you give Daddy a hug?
He's like, you turned it off? Turn.
How do we do it?
Yeah?
Doo-doo.
Ooh, yeah?
Doo-doo.
Doo-doo.
Dad.
Yeah, is Dada? And this is you. This is you. Do it.
How do we do it?
Do it. Careful. Do you want
Can I sit on Daddy's lap?
just say hi to everybody? Hi to everybody.
Bye.
Type the keyboard. Oh, well, he's doing something. Oh.
Wow.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
ooh,
Ooh, 10, 10, 10, 10. Yeah, the stream's just gonna randomly shut off.
Wow.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. Why are you laying down like that?
To get a better view.
You're typing just like Daddy, huh? Yeah. Wow.
Is that how you do it?
He just somehow Googled an article from the SEC, the SEC archives. This is what, I'm not joking, like this is what he just pulled up. I don't know how he did this, but he's like hacking into the mainframe or something. It's
all right.
all right. Wow, you're pretty smart, huh?
Yes, I said. Oh no.
Oh no?
Oh no.
Oh. Holy shoot, it's baby Jason Bourne.
La 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 la.
Yeah?
Can you sing a song?
La la la.
La la la.
Good.
La la la. Oh.
Oh.
I'm just...
Ooh.
like he's... I don't know how you're doing this, dude, but... Okay, maybe we should stop there before it breaks further. Wow. Wow is right. Oh, wow. Whoa.
Alright, kiddo, you ready to go?
Squeeze. Squeeze.
Yeah, show off your cool
Oh,
rock
did you saw
sandals.
your cool sandals?
Sandals. We just learned they light up this morning.
Oh, really? Can you stomp? Wow. Again.
A little smile. He's like, I will figure this out.
Whoop. Whoop. Gonna have fun with mama? Be a good boy? Oh, he figured it out. Oh, and then he turned it off.
Okay, baby. Hey, don't break it.
No, sorry, oh jeez.
This is so cold.
Oh, then he's got
Right in the eyes. Are you ready to go?
You go?
Okay, can you turn it off?
Off.
Alright, good job. We're gonna go bye-bye.
Good
Say
job.
bye, Daddy.
High five?
Bye-bye, Dada. I love you.
It's like you tricked me into turning it off.
We're gonna
Again?
say bye, Air. See you later.
Up. Can I have a hug? Are you too busy? Are you too busy? Oh, Luke, thank you. Sorry to talk about me in the Redfall gameplay vid. Oh, jeez. Was it nice? What did I say? Oh, was it about whatever, the like collector's edition items and stuff? Oh yeah. Oh, that's
no,
expensive.
let's not play with those. Come on, baby.
You gonna go be nice to mama?
He's like, I'll think about it.
He's like, that I'm not so sure.
Hey, come on. Lachlan James, let's go bye-bye.
Can you say bye-bye, everybody?
Bye. I'm gonna go.
Bye-bye,
Here I
everybody.
go.
Bye bye.
On your wawa.
Love you.
Yeah, I love you.
I love you,
Bye.
Daddy.
Bye.
Have fun.
Say bye, Dad.
Drive safe.
Okay, Philly's mad. Don't let him in the garage.
Oh man. Dad, I want to have fun, not hug you. Yeah. I seriously don't know how he pulled that up. He pulled up, it looks like some archives from the SEC. It's a text file. Source Deutsche Bank 2010 Bloomberg Finance LP Deutsche Bank X alpha indices shown herein have existed since October 3rd, 2006. Accordingly, the results shown during the retrospective, the periods are hypothetical. Yeah, I don't know what he pulled up here, but it goes on and on forever. He pulled up something. I don't know how, but he pulled up something crazy. Man. Yeah, Luke just casually looking at the nuclear codes the son brought up. Can you imagine if he somehow accidentally hacked into like something pretty serious? That would be amazing. Yeah, YouTuber and streamer Luke Stevens arrested for accessing classified information when his son typed randomly on his computer. Oh, that's it. If I'm gonna go to prison, that's how I want to go, for sure. Drinner, booyah! Thank you. He's the one. Oh my God, it's Jason Bourne.
Drinner D super chatted $10. Played RE4 remake and then played RE3 remake cause I love it. Then I remembered that you hated it. Can you go into some detail as to why? Also, will you still be my friend since I love it?
Yes, Drinner, I'll be your friend. Yeah, Resident Evil 3, I thought for the value proposition when it launched was insultingly short. The amount of gameplay time, everything for the cost was outrageous. It was just ridiculous. And then the multiplayer mode they launched was also a train wreck when it launched. The whole thing was just a disaster. So that pissed me off. I think if you got it at a good price, like they have a bundle where you can get Resident Evil 2 remake and then 3 remake, and you can get them, I think, together for either 40 or 60 bucks. And that I think is much more reasonable. If you get it for like 20 bucks, I think it's fine. It's pretty good for 20 bucks. For like the full 40, it's ridiculous. So shorter than The Last of Us 1. Oh, by a lot. Yeah. World-renowned GeoHound. I've been watching Luke for years. If you're new to Luke, I can confirm that he's most wholesome and genuine gaming streamer, YouTuber, creator, hands down. So share, like, sub to this man. We need more like him. I appreciate that, world-renowned. I try. I'm trying to be a better person every day. Not do stupid things like we've all done in the past, but to be better. Luke, can you add me on Discord so we can keep DMing? It's possible. Basically, we ran into a situation where we had a bunch of people like swarming my DMs, and frankly, it got, and to be clear, Luke, this was not you, so don't think it was you, but there were a lot of people who started to, I think, slide into a space where they thought like I was actually their best friend, and that they could like just send me pages and pages of like messages. And I'm not kidding when I say pages. I'm talking like a single message split up into multiple entries that's probably each like 10,000 characters long, like full on dumping tons of stuff on it. And they expected me to just read through all of that, which would take 45 minutes, and then write out a crazy long reply. And I'm like, it's not that I don't appreciate this individual or the fact that they want to talk with me that badly, but it's also just not practical. Like, I have a wife, I have kids, I have my own personal life, and then I have everything going on here. And I have a lot of other people that would like to send messages like that and chat with me in the day in, day out in that way. And it's just not possible. So there's no way to do it, you know, there's no way to do it in a fair way to everybody. And there's no way to, I don't know. There's just, it gets to a point where it's just too much. It's too much. And then people started sending me like very personal things about stuff going on in their life, asking me for like life advice that would change the course of their entire existence. Things like that, that frankly is just way above my pay grade. Like, I'm a gaming YouTuber. I can offer advice if I think I have something to offer. I can give you my opinion on something. But when somebody, like, I don't want to be too specific, but I'm sure you can imagine and fill in the gaps. Gerardo, by the way, thank you for being a member. Thank you. Appreciate you. There does just reach a point where, like, I don't feel comfortable like answering questions about your mental illnesses or depression or your family issues, things like that. It's just not, I haven't studied it. You have no reason to listen to what I say about those things. Go get professional help, somebody that really knows how to help you and to, you know, get you the help you need. I'm not that person. But people, I think, mistake those. It's like that Eminem song, Stan. It kind of started getting to that point where there were some people kind of like that. Exactly, Nick. Where they didn't, like, there was this kind of delusion where they thought that, like, my courtesy of trying to respond to their messages when I could get to them was equivalent to, we're now best friends and I can share every detail of my life, and that Luke is gonna fix all my problems and do all, and I'm like, I can't. It reminded me of a story. I saw a video Boogie did years ago, and Boogie said that he at one point was doing fan mail. Like, he would open fan mail and read letters and stuff on videos and streams. And one day he got a letter from a lady, and she had sent pictures of her kids. And she was very depressed, and she was in a bad mental spot. And basically she was saying goodbye to the world in this letter that she sent to Boogie. And she wanted Boogie to keep these photos of her kids, who I think had died in a car accident or something, so that they would never be forgotten, because she didn't have any other family. And he was like, okay, this is too much for me. He's like, this is another level of heavy. Like, I don't know how to deal with this. And I don't blame him. So he stopped doing the fan mail openings and reading it out loud, because it was just like, I can't do this, man. This is too much. This is too much. Like, you imagine what happens if one person sends you something like that, and imagine like dozens of people doing that. It'll start to really weigh on your mind. And so that's why we came out and we're like, okay, maybe we just shut down DMs. Maybe we just do that. If you want to get a hold of me directly, go through one of the mods, one of the senior mods like Jacob or Rocky, and we'll go that way. Because if we have that door open, there's just going to be a flood of stuff like that. And it feeds some people who probably have problems and need to seek professional help. Because I'm worried that if I try to take that burden on myself, not only is it going to weigh me down, but also I'm not qualified or equipped to help with those situations. You have no reason to listen to anything I say about that stuff, you know? Yeah, exactly, Luke. Our last conversation was about a short video I edited, so I know that wasn't me. Well, exactly. And so, you know, I'm not referring to you. But yeah, it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. A tiny bit of parasocial can be fine and fun if you keep it super light. Others go way too far with creator attachment. Yeah, and I can only imagine, like, I'm not a celebrity. I can only imagine what some people have to deal with who are on like a celebrity level. Man, it's got to be crazy. Anyway, let's shift into something a little more chipper than something insane like that. Let's actually try this Overdrive mode. I want to show you guys what this is like, because it's kind of outrageous. Oh, I should also probably check to see if Jacob finished that video, or if it's uploading or what. Doesn't look like it yet. Did I check out the new Sherlock Holmes game? It depends on the new one. I'm not sure. I have been keeping up on them. I'm not sure if there's like a new one. I'm not sure. It's got a couple of minutes left on the export. Okay, sounds good, Jake. Overdrive is crashing the game right now. We recorded a whole video on it last night, and I tried it for a good long while. I haven't had any major issues other than it no longer supports my flying car mod and all of that stuff. So it's a bummer. It's a remake. Oh, then I don't think I have seen that. Remind me to check that in just a little bit when we look at some videos and stuff, and I'll check that out. Crazy how RE4 on Steam Deck, you can get 60 FPS, and now most likely Naughty Dog won't even try to get The Last of Us Steam Deck verified. Yeah, I think it was always a bit of a stretch, and it was always going to be tough to get it Steam Deck verified, but they've just totally given up on it. It still has major bugs and glitches. Apparently that key glitch that I found in that most recent video, that key glitch is something that was even in the PS4 version of the game. So there's a lot of stuff that they need to fix before they go for that. Okay. So this, real quick, this is Cyberpunk 20 doubly dubbin'. Actually, let me real quick go and turn off or pause the music. There we go. And then we'll go into the game. Boop. I don't have audio. That's not good. That was weird. Hold on. I don't have audio for some reason. That's odd. Why no audio? Why no sound? Hey. That'll do. Screen. Okay, boom. So that's like, we kind of want sound. We want that. Yeah, you ruined everything. You ruined everything, you stupid bitch. Brandon, 6 months as a member, 4 years as a subscriber. First video I saw of yours was The Witcher 3 critique, but Cyberpunk 2077 and our vid is what got me hooked. That's crazy, dude. 4 years. That's wild. That's wild. Well, I appreciate you for one. That's always crazy. And I'm glad that you are active in like the streams and stuff after all that time. That's awesome. I find the lurkers particularly fascinating. I don't know what it is exactly, but lurkers I find fascinating because there's a lot of you guys out there. During the streams, we maybe have 50 really active chatters, but there are hundreds of people that are here that are not chatting. So I'm always interested in you guys because you're the mystery ones. Like, I don't know who you are. Every once in a while, I'll find out that like somebody from high school was one of those lurkers. You know, somebody's like, oh yeah, I popped into your stream last week just to see what was up. And I was like, why didn't you say anything in chat? That would have been nice. That would have been real nice. You know? I'm just waiting to go to work. They working? Yeah. Treble Champ, I'm a lurker. Well, I've seen you. You mentioned stuff. Maybe we like your voice. Maybe you do. Yeah, well, I'm not saying there aren't good reasons for them to lurk. Let me be very clear. There's very good reasons to lurk a lot of the time. And also, it can sometimes be a little awkward, like popping in and trying to like chat with somebody you watch YouTube videos of. Like, I get it. It can be awkward. It can be weird. But I still like to hear from you guys.
Don't make trouble. Be trouble.
Don't tell our bosses. Your stream started after something else they fell asleep watching. Yeah, that's most of it, I'm sure. I'm the autoplay king. That's what it is. Let's see. Noor, lurker here, watch for almost a year, and this is the first time I've typed in chat. See, boom. See, you're there. Lurking like normal. Yeah, I rocks. Christo, lurker as well. Daily streamer, guilty. You've chatted a few times, and we've watched your videos too. We watch your videos whenever they pop up. And by the way, I appreciate you like linking to my stream and everything in that video you did. I thought that was awesome. So appreciate you. Okay, let's see what I was gonna do. Turn on the performance overlay. The Windows one works pretty well when it's working. Sometimes it stops cooperating. See, like it randomly turns itself off. And I don't really know why it does that. But anyway, so this right here, right now, this is on low. If we go and we crank it to like, let's do ray tracing ultra with DLSS frame gen, all that stuff on. You can see then it looks a little better. We have better reflections, stuff like that. That looks a little better, but it's not crazy. And we're still at like 140 plus frames. Okay. This monitor is 4K. It only goes up to 144. So that's why you're not going to see it peaking above that most of the time, but still. And this new Overdrive ray tracing mode also really, really hits performance. Like pretty aggressively. I'm actually at work right now and you're minimized, so I guess I'm a lurker too. Well, I appreciate you, Ollie. Let's see, boom. That's good. You got to do what you got to do. I do think that is one of the perks of streaming on YouTube as well, is the support for the lurkers. I feel is better than Twitch. Twitch is all over the place. Okay, let's do Overdrive and watch this drop. We're gonna probably be around 80 to 90 frames. Okay, not that bad. But if I turn off ray trace or frame gen and DLSS, you're gonna see it. It gets pretty rough. 20 frames. I wouldn't consider this like super playable, but I don't know, maybe I'm spoiled. I know that there's gonna be some people who are like, you're so spoiled and privileged if you think that's not playable. I'm like, bro, it's 23 frames per second. Come on. When do we draw the line? When do we draw the line? So I'm gonna turn this back on. We're gonna turn that on, apply. Because at least then we get all the way up to like 80, 90, and I feel like it's way more playable. Why does it drop so much? Because with the, I don't know how to like break it down. Basically, what Overdrive is doing is Overdrive is taking individual light sources, like say these lights right here. What would be a better one? A better example that could be even clearer. So I guess maybe like this could be a good example. I'll try swapping it. But you see this light right here. This is like a yellowish white light on the open sign. What's happening is this light is going to bounce around the space, and you can see as it bounces off the ground, it's like a yellowy light. So it bounces the yellow all around. That's not that impressive. What Overdrive does is it casts the rays from that light source. It'll bounce down off the ground, which is going to be like a yellowish reflection. And then that's going to bounce back up, and that's going to light up the underside of this canopy. Whereas normally the game wouldn't really know how to light the underside of this canopy because it just would be a straight line. It's bouncing all over though, so it knows how to light it. One of the other things with it is like with this blue light, you can see the light can reflect off of this blue light, off of an object here, and then back down or against this wall, which reflects the blue light in turn. So every time light touches something, it takes a little bit of that with it, if you want to think about it that way. So if we go here and we say turn off or go all the way back down to say low, you see that difference? You see that difference? So if I turn it back on, specifically pay attention to the bottom of those barrels. Pay attention to the light in the corners of this wall, the steps, everything. You see how flat it looks? I'm going to turn it back on and just watch the difference between those settings. You see, all of a sudden, the barrels are lit realistically. The corner light is actually bounced and occluded properly. The steps are occluded properly. Everything is much, much more realistically lit. And again, just a little side by side. Still a pretty good looking game. But once you've seen like right here, look at his face. The skin on NPCs also is very clear. So look at his face, and I'm going to turn it on. All of a sudden, the lighting totally changes. He's no longer weirdly glowing. All of that just disappears. So the path tracing makes a difference. It makes a big difference. Now, there's a huge performance hit to it because when you're rendering at 4K, basically what's happening is each individual pixel on this screen needs to have calculated for it the light paths for a given sequence, or for a given object. So when you render path tracing and ray tracing specifically, lower resolutions help a lot. Rendering at 4K is extremely expensive, which is just the term for like, it requires a lot of computational power. What you can think of it as is like, I don't actually know if there's a good example of this. What was it? The Last of Us. Was it? No. It was like behind the scenes. I don't actually know if this is gonna be exactly what I'm looking for. There's a specific sequence in this behind the scenes thing. I think these are all just the shooting. No. It was specifically, they were showing how they build the scenes out to make sure that they have everything within the budget of the renderer. So what they basically have is every frame, if you think of it like you're targeting 30 FPS, you have a set amount of time to render that frame. And if you can't render that frame in that time, you end up with frame drops, right? So what they try to do is they try to make sure that no matter where you are in the scene, no matter what you're doing, they can always ensure that it fits within the budget of 16.6 milliseconds or 30 milliseconds or whatever it is. And if it doesn't fit in that, they have to do some work to balance it out and tweak it. This is like a very small snippet of, like I'm looking for a needle in a haystack, like a 4-second clip where he's showing this stuff. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it, but there's a lot of very careful stuff they have to do to make sure that this fits within the rendering budgets. So every second or every frame has a set amount of time that can be used to calculate it. And if it's outside of that amount of time, it's too expensive and it needs to be cut. And when you're doing full path tracing versus like low rasterized, it requires a lot more every single frame because you're calculating each light source. And what DLSS does is DLSS allows you to render at a lower resolution. So if we go to like performance, for example, or let's do ultra performance and we hit apply. What the game is doing is it's actually rendering, in this case, I don't remember exactly what the stats are, but it's rendering at like 720p or 560p or something like that. And then it's upscaling using AI. So it's rendering at a really low resolution, which makes it way easier to run faster because it only has to calculate that many pixels, way fewer pixels compared to calculating everything out for each individual pixel, millions and millions of them at 4K. And if we change it to like, again, the overdrive, if we turn off actually DLSS, you can see it runs really, really poorly because every single frame, they have to calculate for every pixel how the light is behaving and what it's doing. And back in the day, this is just what you had to deal with. But with DLSS and the modern AI stuff they have, you can actually play it at a much better frame rate because it's rendering at a low resolution. And in the case of frame generation, it's actually creating frames to allow it to run a little more efficiently. Come on. Okay, get on. Get on. Here we go. Lanny. I miss my flying cars. Maybe we'll try to get that mod working by the time we're done here today. So I missed that mod. You can see it runs pretty good. One of the questions recently is whether or not they're going to eventually phase out DLSS and that stuff. I saw somebody saying that they hope one day they get rid of DLSS because computers can just render it natively. But honestly, and I mean this seriously, of course we're limited because this is streamed. So you're seeing it locked at 60 frames, you're seeing it compressed and everything after the fact. But from my perspective, I'm not seeing any clear artifacting other than perhaps the occasional blurry object on the edges of the screens and stuff like that. I don't see anything that really makes it clear that this is being upscaled. It runs very, very well, and DLSS is very, very good at what it does, and the frame generation stuff is outrageously good. It's just not even close. So I don't think they'll ever get rid of this. I think they're going to keep it because it just so greatly improves performance. But I can understand why some purists view it as like cheating. They're like, oh, so your game can run poorly and then we'll just upscale it? Cringe. It's like, I don't know. I think it allows you to do crazier and crazier stuff. You know? I want to play it now. It's so pretty. Yeah, it's pretty outrageous. Somebody was asking the other stream, when is this coming to PlayStation 5? And I'm not joking when I say never. It can't come to the PS5. It's just not able to do it. This relies on built-in like hardware calculators and stuff that are in the RTX 4090 and the 40 series cards. And that stuff can't just be brought to the PlayStation. It just can't. It doesn't work that way. So maybe with a PS5 Pro they could do something like this, but I would be skeptical. Keep an eye out for glittering textures. Or that. This is a great example. Look at the lights as I clip into the wall. Oh god. There we go. I think I'm loose. There we go. So look at these light bars. Okay, watch them as they go overhead. You're gonna see some ghosting, okay? As I go, see that a little bit, see that? As I go faster and faster, you're gonna see it more and more. Yeah, you see that? See that weird ghosting? Where like lines of it stay behind? That is, my understanding is that is an artifact of the frame generation where the AI doesn't really know how to handle the light bar, so it's duplicating it too many times. So that is an artifact of the frame generation stuff. When you're playing the game and your eyes are centered on the center of the screen and focused there, you're less likely to notice it, but that is an artifact. That is something you can see. They're arresting somebody down with the what is it? Patriarchy, is that what we say? Poor guy didn't even know what was happening. Bam. Probably the PlayStation 6 will have the tech to do this level of ray tracing, and even that's in doubt. Yeah, it's also a matter of focus. Like, this stuff is developing so quickly. The AI upscalers, all of this stuff is outrageous. And it's moving so fast that I just don't think we're going to see it happen. Yeah, I see that. That was pretty bad. I just don't see how they could realistically bring stuff like this and have it stay up to date. Because like the 40 series versus the 30 series is night and day with frame generation, with the DLSS 3 support. And some of that is software locked, but I'm not entirely sure. I guess that one of you guys might know, is DLSS 3.0 and the frame generation actually hardware restricted, or is it just an NVIDIA marketing thing that they've locked it behind the software? Because I don't know. I know I can run like FSR2 on my 1070 because I tried that with The Last of Us Part 1 on PC. And it sort of worked, but it was not very efficient. It seemed that there was a hardware limitation there. The problem with DLSS and FSR is their impact on the CPU. Yeah, but the other piece of it is that CPUs are notoriously underutilized on modern games. Like even now, you see my CPU right now is at 2%. Oh yeah, see, this is where you're gonna see the overdrive really come into full force. You see the color of the light changing, everything, the look of absolutely everything. If I turn this down to low, it's gonna look like night and day. Like, come on, dude. Look at that. Look at the wall in front of me. Look at the wall in front of me, and I'm gonna turn it on. It's actually lighting the wall and the undersides of it. Like it's outrageous. You want to see Steam Deck? Okay, Steam Deck settings. This is Steam Deck settings, but at 4K, so it's actually not that bad. But then if I go overdrive, way better. Oh, Judy's calling.
Hey, Judy. How you feeling?
Shitty, but something came to me.
So what did you come up with?
The Mox died. Lucy's bar used to be a joy house. Tiger Claws killed one girl too many, so people took matters into their own hands. It belongs to us now.
Okay.
Clouds could stand to get the same makeover.
Got the Mox to agree to take over Clouds.
No, I'm trying to get you. Know someone in Clouds who'll take our side. Will you help?
Fine. Got me on board.
Ooh, yes.
Okay, so, what's the plan?
First up, we gotta talk to Maiko Maeda. If she's not with us, might as well throw our hands up in the air.
You sure Maiko's gonna want to join forces?
If I was sure, I'd be on the hollow to her and we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Let me rephrase. Is there any chance she'll slap us around, then shove us out her mega tower window?
Of course, sure.
Guess I can work with that. When we doing this?
Early morning, Clouds will be closed. Hardly a soul lurking at that time.
How early?
Before 8, I'll be by the entrance. Scratch that. The balcony above Clouds. We'll sneak in. No one needs to know we're there.
On the balcony. Got it.
I have a feeling this is going to be a really clear example too. This little walkway. Yeah, it's like specifically, oh God. So like, look at this, and then I'm gonna turn it on. Not even close. Like again, it's not a bad looking game on like low and medium settings, but when you swap between this, it's like, okay, I get it. This is wild. Team River, I think Nikki's Team River too. We want Phantom Liberty? Oh yeah. No joke, I think the PS5 can run this at 1080p. I don't think so, dude, because what is it, tensor cores? There's an actual name for the hardware implemented into the 40 and 30 series for ray tracing specifically that is not there in the PlayStation 5 or the Series X. So like, you just can't. So I don't buy it. Maybe they can do something. I don't know. But from what I understand, I don't think it could do anything close to this. I don't know. And again, like this is with DLSS and all that stuff turned on and cranked. I will never be able to enjoy this game again. Do any of you know if Phantom Liberty will require completing the story again? I don't think so. I think it takes place before the end of the story. My understanding is that it'll work kind of like, and this isn't confirmed, this is just what I've heard. My understanding is it'll work like the DLC in The Witcher 3, where if you want to start it, like start Hearts of Stone, you can select from the main menu, start from Hearts of Stone, and it will just give you a character that has what you should have at that point in the game. So my understanding is that you won't have to play through it all. Watching this Just watching the stream makes my 2060 sweat. Yeah, it's pretty insane what this thing is doing right now. It's a little outrageous. Gonna be real. If your card is not good enough, will DLSS try to upscale from even lower resolutions, like maybe 540p to whatever you have right now, or will it sacrifice ray tracing per frame? My understanding is that each one of these settings for DLSS, if we go to just ray tracing for this, each one of these specifically correlates to a rendering resolution drop. So, for example, I think we look up, or it was like well, I wanted to keep that up. DLSS 4K settings. Is it? No, I want to know specific rendering resolutions. Let's see. DLSS quality renders the game internally at the closest resolution possible to the target. So if you set your game to 4K or 3840 by 2160, expect 3200 by 1800 render super sampled to 4K. So it'll render at a higher resolution. I think it can scale sometimes, but usually it's flat. So if you set it to performance and you're at 4K, it'll be rendering at 1080p and upscaling to 4K. Or if you're on like 1440p monitors, it'll not have to, like, it'll render at 720p. So it all scales. But like if you're at 4K and you render at performance ultra, it's probably rendering at 720p and then upscaling to 4K. And then balanced, it looks like it has variable resolution, so it changes the resolution in real time. So it's, unless you're on balanced mode, it doesn't sound like it's going to do a whole lot to like dynamically change it. But if you're on balanced mode, it's going to actively change and tweak the resolution it's rendering at to try and achieve higher frame rates. But yeah, in this case, what is it like if I turn off frame generation? What does DLSS do by itself? Honestly, this is better. This is probably in the 40s. Let me turn on Afterburner, because the Windows one is not really working. MSI Afterburner. And then it's like gear, monitoring. There, it's very small. Yeah, we're at like 62, 63. So turning on frame generation brings it to like up 30 frames, 25, 30 frames. That'll do. Look at the lights. This is another place where you're going to see it. So like, this is maybe the best example actually. So with this, you can see that like there's a red light, yellow light, bluish light, green light. There's all these lights, and each of their colors blend in and mix with each other and then reflect down to light the rest of the scene. If we turn this to like low, I'm guessing this is going to look way worse. Yeah, I mean, look at that. This is probably the most stark difference I've seen. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty aggressive. It's like I was saying last time, though. I don't know how this will be affected by, like, baked-in lighting. Like, it looks great for an open-world game where they can't bake every little thing in because they have, like, day-night cycles. They have all this stuff, so the lights are constantly changing. But for a linear game, I don't know if you could just bake all this stuff in and it would look the same. I would guess you can probably do it a good amount, but still, like, for open world games, that's not really an option. So being able to do it here is pretty cool. Again, just like, look at this difference. It's playable at low, but damn, it looks good on Overdrive. Wow. Try going to the Afterlife loot. Ooh, yeah, we can do that. Let's see. DLSS quality on 4K should be internally 1440p, not 1080p. Yes. I think what they were saying, quality on DLSS should be the 1800p was what they were targeting usually. And then it was performance. It renders at 1080p. Oh, you did say 1800p. So 1440. Okay. Then yeah, I don't know. Either way, I mean, it looks on quality. It looks very, very good. Looks very, very good. It's funny. I like didn't finish reading. So I'm like, actually, it's like this. And then you said that exact thing. The rendering resolution does vary from game to game, I think. Okay. Yep, 4K on quality is 1440p. Performance is 1080. Okay. Don't forget this is a bolt-on and the engine was designed with ray tracing, path tracing as a fundamental principle. Or was not rendered as, I'm not sure. Oh, we got lots of gigs, side jobs. Where is this save at? I don't even, level 18. Okay. Like, I don't even know where this save is in the middle of the story. Down on the street, meet with Takamura. Clouds. There's lots to do. Cyber Psychos. I did enjoy hunting down the Cyber Psychos back in the day. It feels weird to say back in the day, but it's like this game came out almost like going on 3 years ago. And that's pretty crazy. Pay off your debt to Victor. Nah. Nah. Gigs. Okay, where is my custom? Okay, just go like that. Gig, side jobs. Service point, Delamain HQ, Skyline. I don't remember where. Mega building. The chapel. Arasaka Tower, Halsey, Cordova, Redwood, Crescent Broad. You guys who know where it is are like, Luke, oh my god, it's over there. Afterlife. There we go. There we go. Ooh, baby. Rules to play Cyberpunk: never pay your debt to Victor. 2, meet Takamura in downtown on the street pass at least halfway through the game. And 3, never meet Hanako at Embers. Yeah, but to be fair, all of the endings kind of suck. I don't care what anyone says. I think all the endings just suck. They're terrible. No talent. Okay, by the way, do you guys remember that? Okay, hold on. This is a total diatribe, but I actually just found this out the other day. You remember Trumpet guy? Do you remember this guy? You remember this?
Get out! This is one of the most important places in all of North America. Who are you? Who are you? You miserable, presumptuous, no talent. You're no artist. An artist respects the silence that serves as the foundation of creativity. You obviously don't have the talent. You don't have enough respect for yourself or other people, or what it is to express yourself.
So whenever I've referred to this, I've always been like, oh yeah, no talent. You have no talent. You're terrible. So I've used this as a meme a lot. You guys will hear me say, terrible, no talent. You'll hear me say this a lot. I just found out last night because I decided to Google who this was. Surely somebody's figured it out. It is like a very well-established musician. Like actually very accomplished, well qualified. And apparently this whole video, like the video seems like he's just yelling. Yeah, small angry man yells at trumpet player in New York City. They make it seem like he's just attacking this guy for playing the trumpet outside. And then being like, I walked Bob Dylan on stage in 1975. Who the hell are you? You know, and make him seem like a crazy guy. However, apparently this whole exchange takes place outside of like a Holocaust museum. And one of the reasons he was very upset is because he found it extremely disrespectful to play like Jay-Z songs and stuff on the trumpet outside of a Holocaust museum. And now I feel terrible because I'm like, I've been kind of like poking fun at this guy for terrible, no talent all these years. And now I find out that actually I'm kind of on his side. Like, yeah, you shouldn't, I think it's inappropriate to be playing like goofy trumpet songs or pop culture trumpet songs outside of a Holocaust museum. So it just goes to show you, if you think you know the whole story, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it seems really cut and dry that one person is clearly in the wrong and is acting crazy, and this person's totally in the right, minding their own business. And sometimes you find out one more piece of information that makes it out so like this guy is kind of being a dick, and he's the one that's trying to defend a space which should be a little more sacred. So that was my oh crap moment of the day. Yeah, his name is Douglas Levinson. Yeah, like an actual musician. Very well accomplished. Favorite car in Cyberpunk? Mine is Johnny's Porsche. Yeah, I like his Porsche too. It's also very, very good. But yeah, anyway. I wish Full Dive was real and we could actually live in Cyberpunk, send people to me, get chips, pay them for $4 million for it. Yeah, well, sometimes, man. Oh, I feel the same way. Especially the music being played, fell in love with the music in this game, and it's very hard-hitting emotionally. Yeah, especially for me, it's the cutscenes. The way that they were able to design cutscenes and conversations between characters is very, very good. They've done a tremendous job. And to this day, I don't think there's any open world game that's quite on the same level. Red Dead was very good, but I still feel like this game is well above it, which I mean, you'd hope is a couple years later. But by the way, I'm going to turn on the air conditioning because it's getting, as you can imagine, this is heating up the room pretty bad. So as we drive to Afterlife to see what that's like, I'm going to turn that on. So you'll hear a slight buzzing in the background whenever I talk, but that's what that is. Red Dead still holds up pretty well. Yeah, Red Dead is freaking Red Dead. So it just looks outrageously good. A lot of Rockstar games are like that though. They just age really well. Even to a certain extent, Grand Theft Auto 5 single player still looks very, very good. Even little stuff, like if you walk into the ocean in GTA 5, if you walk into the ocean, your clothes will get wet only to the level that you walked into the ocean with. It's like it'll realistically wet the clothes. Is this my exit? Yeah. Don't mind me, sorry. 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 Jesus Christ. Okay. Pull up here. The cars still drive really bad, but I think that's just a Cyberpunk issue at this point. Okay. So we're still on overdrive mode. Quick outdoor test. Are you ready? Yeah, pretty much immediately all that delicate lighting on the ground and in the... So like the pink, notice how there's no pink light reflecting off of that? Watch me turn it back on. You can actually see the pink light is reflecting and hitting that. Okay, let's go down. Let's see. Ooh. Ooh, baby. Let's see. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do. Christopher, stop it. Cars drive fine. Dude, maybe on controller. Mouse and keyboard, they drive like ass compared to, like, even, again, GTA 5. Way better. Not even close, and that game's a decade old. Just calling it like I see it. Sorry, not sorry. The reflections are crazy in this. Look at that. Wow. Wow.
Naughty, naughty.
Yeah, man. Oh, it's gorgeous. I mean, say what we will about... That's weird. Is the stain floating above the pool table? I think it is. That's weird. Say what you will about Red Dead, Cyberpunk, all these games. I still think that Cyberpunk has way more staying power graphically than those games. Like, this is outrageous. This is crazy. Imagine if, like, if Rockstar came out and put this much effort in long-term support of their games, other than GTA Online. that's the big qualifier, because they'll come out and they'll support GTA Online to the sun and back, but everything else, it seems like they don't really give a crap. Nothing if you mod this game. Well, maybe that's what we try next. Maybe I try to get the flying mod or flying car mod working, because that is like totally transformative. It really adds a lot to it as far as I'm concerned. So maybe I'll do that. I'll mess with it while we catch up on some of that stuff you guys were telling me about. Yeah, Rockstar supporting their games. Yeah, exactly. The BD Shack. Brain dances are one of those things in this world that make me really uncomfortable, because I know if they were a thing in this world, they would be extremely popular. You know, I think it's unfortunate, but they would be very, very popular. People have like fantasies of doing horrible things, just living them out in brain dances instead of actually doing it. I can appreciate that they're not actually doing it. They're just living it out through a brain dance. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know if that's actually better, because like you're still pursuing that. Like you're not dealing with the core problem, you know? It brings up interesting ethical questions. I'll give them that. Man, I hope 1.7 and Phantom Liberty change up the systems in the base dramatically. I have high hopes for Cyberpunk 2. Me too. One of the things, I mean, speaking of the driving mechanics, one of the things that Unreal Engine brings to the table is very, very powerful physics systems for driving specifically, which might have been one of the reasons they liked it. So I would guess driving mechanics, all of that stuff, vastly improved in the sequel. Existential, you cannot run low and overdrive at the same time, as far as I'm aware. Can you? I guess then it's not really low, but it should. I guess we can crank it. So just low texture quality, but crank ray tracing. why not? I guess. I don't know why you would ever need to do this, because like if you can run overdrive, like the thing that's affecting performance is not the like texture settings, it's the overdrive. So if you can do this, VRAM is probably not an issue, you know? So you're just like lowering the settings, but like we do that. Yeah, just improve textures. Yeah, I think it's one of those things. If you can run overdrive, you probably, you're not going to have an issue with like VRAM or anything like that. Can you try DLSS quality instead of auto? I think if I do that, will it let me change? Okay, I can keep that on. All that on. $60 frames. So it cut it by about 20, 30 frames. It's definitely sharper in the reflections. I can tell that difference. Yeah, reflections are stupid sharp. Like look in that window, you can see the like blue logo there. We can't see it in frame, but blue logo. And if we look up, where is the blue logo? Oh, right there. The bar. Yeah, right there. And right there. Huh. It's wild. I do think quality, I can tell a clear difference. I mean, it's way sharper. Through stream, you might not be able to tell much of a difference though, with it compressed and everything. I do want to start streaming in AV1, by the way, because apparently AV1 just like allows you to run at 4K 60 for the stream at like 6 megabit. And it looks crazy sharp. So we might try to start doing that. Yeah, it's keeping up pretty good too. What's the reason to not use AV1? For one, like Twitch streaming, you can't do AV1. There's no support. Twitch is like very behind the curve when it comes to their tech support. I'm gonna try to get that flying car mod working. So there's that. Secondly, AV1 is only supported on the new Intel encoding specifically. It's only supported on the new Intel graphics cards and the 40 series. So you have to have basically a brand new graphics card. And I mean, other downsides are just like, it's still kind of unstable. It's a very new thing, but if you can get it working, like apparently it's ridiculously good. Okay. I think what I'll do is we'll do this. Boop, boop, boop. And I'll get one of these things on so we can check out these settings or these things while I try to get that mod working, because I'm guessing it's going to be a little less. It's going to be a little tricky to get it working, if I can get it working at all. Oh, Maddie posted something about his expectations for Starfield. I wonder if he's actually like leveled out. I wonder. I don't know. So for you on YouTube, is it still a hassle? No, YouTube implemented, it's called RTMP Plus. It's like a brand new streaming protocol that YouTube is like leading the way with. And the crazy thing is like 6,000 kilobit per second or 6 megabit per second on 1080p with H.264 as the encoder looks really blurry. You get those weird blocks when stuff starts happening and crazy stuff starts happening. It looks terrible, artifacting, you know, it's just compression issues all over the place. with AV1, you can run like 4K 60 and use 6000. And it looks as though you're doing like the equivalent of 4K 60 with like a 50 megabit per second bit rate. It's like actually crazy. But it makes sense. AV1 is like the most recent update to, or competitor, I guess, in the video encoding space to H.264 and 5 in the last like 10 years. So it's like the first time they've actually gotten some competition, which is good. I mean, it's awesome. So I think if we start doing that, it's gonna be good. Okay, let's try this. I'm sorry, I saw the Mario movie and I've just had Peaches. You're so cool. It's stuck in my head for ages. Peaches, 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 peaches. I love you so. I love it. Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna try to do this and get this mod working while we go. So we're gonna react to this in real time. This is Maddie's honest expectations for Starfield. I'm very, very interested because for those of you not familiar, I did a collaboration with Maddie back, I think it was October, maybe September of last year. It was a little earlier, but basically it was like, we were talking about expectations for Starfield, and my stance is that I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt because Fallout 76 was like criminally terrible, literally. And he's willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, at least he was back then, because they've made a lot of steps and improvements. I just am not willing to forgive them that easily. So it'll be interesting to see in this if he has changed his mind or if he's still generally pretty positive. One little tidbit, again, Maddie's a friend. Maddie's a friend of the channel. We've collaborated. We're friendly. We talk. We're buddies. So there's a little bias there, but I'll still call Maddie out when I think he's being a fanboy. Because as I've said, like Maddie, Joe Raptor, these guys, I love them to death. They tend to be much more prone to fanboyism or hyping things up because they tend to look at the glass as half full. Whereas I tend to be like, I don't care what's in the glass. You pissed in the last 7 glasses you handed me, so I'm not drinking this. You know? Because the last Fallout 76 glass they had, you could look at it and say, hey, it's half full. But I'm like, it's still filled with piss. So I don't care if it's half full or not. It's piss. Or it's probably piss. You know, it's like I have no reason to believe it's not. And so it's just a very simple distinction in how we approach these things. Very simple. Very simple. Based solely on the record of the team that's working on Starfield, Elder Scrolls, Fallout 3 and 4, there's not much to worry about. 76 makes me skeptical, but technically it was a different team. That's what I was going off of. But then, who was it? I think it was Jason Schreier did some reporting, and he was like, actually, BGS was like the actual Maryland team was much more involved in Fallout 76 than they admitted. They were quite involved. A lot of the networking stuff was tied up in Austin, and Austin's name was put on it, but BGS Maryland spent a lot of time on it, like a lot of time on it. So I don't know who to believe. Maybe it really was just Austin was incapable of getting it working, but my understanding is that they did spend a good amount of time on it. So, and of course, once the game flopped and was terrible and broken, then they came out and were like, actually, it was Austin. It was not us. But I mean, come on, you know. Is it going to be Joe Raptor or Maddie co-hosting the podcast? It's one of the two, 100%. I will not deny anything in that comment. I will not say yes or no, which is basically an answer, but I mean, you know, we have to be coy. I just watch you while I work. It's weird chatting while I work. Oh, Josh, you're good. That sent so late. I figured. I was like, oh, that, or you're like, you know, further back in the VOD and you're catching up or something. I don't know. Anyway, let's see what this is while I get this mod working.
Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and we are sitting down to talk about Starfield. We're only a couple of months away from the Starfield Developer Direct, and there's a lot of questions surrounding the showcase and what to expect. So today, while the news is relatively slow, I thought it'd be actually a fun time to sit down and discuss what we can expect from the Developer Direct both before and after it. You see, based off my familiarity with the summer showcase coverage, once we hit May, things are going to start to pick up with rumors and leaks and speculation, and we'll be on top of all of that as we always are. And then June is the time we see the fruits of our labor. Were our guesses correct? Were they incorrect? Where do we stand? So now is the perfect time to have that honest expectations level conversation with Starfield. Do we expect to see some good stuff? If so, what is that good stuff? Is there anything we're afraid of? If so, what is that? And obviously, we'll comb deeper into it with DLC, modding expectations.
I mean, my big thing is I think that it's very, very likely that we see Todd Howard take the stage and probably be a great showman, convince us all that it's really good. He's going to look at a bunch of stuff and be like, and you can customize your ship. And look, we have this new tech with
16 times the detail.
They're going to come through and do all of this stuff. And it's going to surprise a lot of people, and a lot of people are going to be like, okay, this is going to be amazing. But as we've learned the last decade, just because something looks really good in a showcase, or just because there's a really good showman and salesperson pitching it to you, doesn't mean that it's going to live up to those expectations, or that it's going to actually deliver on the broader vision. It's the same thing like when there's a really good salesman, they will tell you things in a really positive way that will get you excited about them. But then if you pause and you go, wait, but why should I be excited about that in particular? You don't really know, right? So like Todd Howard telling you that this map for Fallout 76 is 4 times the size of Fallout 4. And that's pitched to you as like a really good thing. But you have to pause and go, wait, but is that actually a really good thing? Or is it just going to be spread out with less detail in it? You know, so like it's not always as simple as just, wow, he listed 15 things and he seemed really pumped about them, so I should be pumped too. It's like, no, not always. Sometimes, sure, but not always. Sometimes it's a little more complicated than that.
Trailer counts, so on and so forth. And is Xbox doing too much on their big showcase day? It's a wide open conversation I'm excited to have. And if you're new here and you're into Bethesda conversations, news, games like Starfield, Redfall, and so on, consider subscribing. A lot of coverage is about to pick up in these coming weeks. We're in a bit of a lull right now when it comes to gaming news, but when it comes to releases, things are about to heat up. A lot of reviews on the way, a lot of news on the way, a lot of probably rumors on the way as well. We'll see though. But with that, thank you so much for giving me some of your time today. Let's discuss Starfield. The reason I wanted to have this conversation today beyond the timing of it was also a tweet I saw that indicates the time frame for Xbox's game showcase, which also inherently gives us a window for how long the Starfield Developer Direct is going to be. So this tweet says that the Xbox game showcase combined with the Starfield Direct will go for a total of 2 hours. With that, I think based on what we know on the 2 formats, that we can expect the Xbox Game Showcase to go around 90 minutes and Starfield's Developer Direct to go around 30 minutes. Again, this is just speculation based off what we know so far, based off previous showings from the 2. It's possible we get less Xbox Game Showcase and more Starfield Developer Direct, but I expect my former prediction to be the accurate one. But right now, we don't have the official word, we just have the allotted time window, and that's kind of exciting. It's going to keep us guessing just how much Starfield we're going to see. So that begins with our first talking point. How much will we see? It looks like we're at least primed and set up for our usual God-powered level presentation of about half an hour, given what we've seen with Fallout 76 and Fallout 4. Todd likes to come out and show everything about the game and give one informative deep dive and kind of leave that as the marketing tool for the rest of the game. Now we saw,
and again, I got to give Todd credit. There's no way to spin this other than just saying Todd is a phenomenal salesman. He just is. Like, I give them crap all the time. I give them, you know, I poke, prod, and tease, but Todd is a phenomenal salesman. And as to whether or not that's like part of the success of these games, I think there's no way to twist it without it being, because like what Todd's really gifted at, in addition to like running a successful team and building, you know, games that are very recognizable and all that, Todd is very, very good at figuring out what features look really good on stage and get people excited. Not always, like, they don't always translate to the best game, full stop, but a lot of the time they translate to hype, excitement, speculation. They encourage that type of thing. And they're very, very good at setting up trailers and all this stuff that gets people excited, which is a talent. I mean, it's a skill. It's not easy to do this, as you can tell by so many games that come out and are announced and fail to get people really excited, you know? So you gotta be tricky, or you gotta be careful with that. A salesman is right up there with politicians and lawyers in terms of integrity. Well, yeah, I mean, you should never just trust what anybody says, but you should especially never trust somebody, full stop, who has a vested interest in you performing one specific action that they're trying to convince you of. So in the case of Todd wants you to buy his game and to get hyped for it, to talk it up so that it does well and sells well. That's his job. I mean, that's what he's trying to do. And as a result, you should never just take it for granted. You should always look at it a little skeptically and be like, well, has this been accurate before? Has he told me the truth before? Or has he told me little lies many times? And then also, like I mentioned earlier, you have to look at what exactly is being said and question whether or not that actually translates to this is going to be good or this is going to be better. Because it doesn't always. Like, again, this map is 4 times the size of Fallout 4. That doesn't mean the game will be better. That just means the map is bigger. And that could actually mean the game is going to be worse because you're dealing with a map that's more bloated, that's expanded wider, right? It's not a given that makes the game better. Or saying that the lighting, what did he say? He said like, and we have brand new lighting and landscape technologies. Okay. Cool. But like, how does that make the game better? Right? So a strong salesman is a confident one. And people often confuse confidence for correctness because people are not used to seeing others that are confidently wrong. And confidence it's something like deep within us in our monkey DNA where we just hear somebody confident and we associate like, oh, well, they wouldn't be that confident if they weren't right. They know something, so I'll trust them there, you know? And as a result, I think it's just like, I don't know, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful. It's Todd, we can say like, oh, he's like a used car salesman. He's like a used or a new car salesman. If anything, he's probably more like a new car salesman because he's selling you on new features, new things you haven't seen before. And if you like think about it really quickly, you might not know why that's actually a good thing, but he's saying it confidently like it's a good thing. So people often just assume, well, it must be cool because he's acting like it's cool, you know? Is this the first game on Creation Engine 2? No, I don't think there is a Creation Engine 2. It's all just Creation Engine. They could call it Creation Engine 2, but it's still the Creation Engine. I mean, it's still the same thing. Yeah, the last 10 years have taught me that often a larger map means a worse game. Yeah, well, I think a lot of people are realizing that too, which is one of the reasons also that, again, Todd saying there's 1,000 planets in Starfield. That shouldn't instantaneously mean this is a buy. Just because that sounds cool. Because that could just mean that there's 1,000 places that are big and empty for you to install mods on. You know, that's not a given that makes the game good. But he will say that very confidently. And he's going to be, we've gone through these planets and we have hand-placed countless colonies. Or he could even say hundreds upon hundreds of colonies, which is another way of saying 200 colonies, you know, that are copy and pasted. Yeah, they're hand placed because somebody went in there, drag and dropped a copy and pasted colony there. But his word choice is very specific and very precise because it's hand placed. That we associate with extra care being put into it. And then it's colonies instead of, you know, unique encounters or dynamic encounters. And if he says there's dynamic quests, he'll say dynamic quests are here instead of procedurally generated repeated quests. You know, so again, you just have to like think about what is actually being said, because a lot of the time people will just take that last bit, especially fanboy types. They will just take the last part and be like, that's awesome, because he said it sounded awesome, right? It's like, well, you got to think about it a little more carefully than that. A little bit more carefully. And you could be like, Luke, you're such a Debbie Downer. They're like killing my vibe. But again, this is the thing. They're asking us for money. They want $70 from us or $60 from us. Or in the case of this, yes, it's on Game Pass. But they're still asking for your time to play the game. And your time is valuable. And you shouldn't just give it to them for no reason. In my mind. Maybe. Yeah, hand placed, a couple of extra mouse clicks. Exactly. It doesn't actually mean a lot when you actually think about what hand placed means. I'm still vibing. Good, James. I'm glad.
I'm vibing!
Me too. Luke, what do you think about the 8 gigabyte GPUs getting obsolete and AMD cards with more VRAM outperforming them? I would say I don't have a lot of thoughts on it. I haven't really dug into it, so I don't really know. Just being real, just being honest. Honestly, hearing 1,000 players would turn me off, but I only have a PS5, so I'm not the target audience anyways. Yeah, but I mean, it's also like, even back when No Man's Sky launched on PlayStation 5, No Man's Sky was pitched as having, 16 quintillion planets or something like that. And people are like, that's awesome. And a few people asked, well, why is that awesome? Because how on earth do you make 16 quintillion planets interesting or worth exploring? And the answer was, you can't really make 16 quintillion planets worth exploring. There's going to be a lot of those that are not worth going to, and that look exactly identical to the one that you just went to. But again, when people are hyped and excited, being the person that comes out and says something like that just comes off as like you're trying to kill the mood.
So with 76, how that can come back to bite you in the butt with the 16 times the detail, but otherwise with Fallout 4, it worked extremely well. What are my expectations going in with how much we're going to see? Well, if we go off what Todd Howard told us when we got the release date finally for September 6th, he said then and there that he was surprised how much they can fit into this game, and there's still so much to show us. Now, if we're to believe him, the guy trying to, sell us the game, there is still a lot for us to see. But ultimately, we have to factor in one thing. This is a very strange marketing window that's also exciting.
It's also exciting, guys. Also, this is so freaking awesome. Look at this modder. This modder went in and created a flow chart of what you should do based on which errors you're getting. So like when I try to launch Cyberpunk with these mods enabled, I get this pop-up. This pop-up is the same as this pop-up. So I can then go through the flow chart and be like, okay, hit no, install CTD helper, restart, and then with the helper, go in here and check the log, figure out what I'm missing, what I need. And then like you can go through all these steps. It's awesome. It's awesome. I love modders, dude. They're so great.
Reality is that likely the next time we see Starfield in full, I don't think there will be any trailers leading into June, but I won't definitively say so. But the next time we see Starfield in full will be 3 months away from launch. Now, obviously we have a lot of questions about the game, but the reality is, how much does Bethesda truly want to show us about this game? I don't think we're going to get 30 minutes of raw gameplay, by the way. If the first developer direct was anything to go by, there's a lot of B-roll, sizzle reel stuff, and it's very snappy. So we're not going to get too long of, I think, any stretch of gameplay. Unless it's going to be a lot like Redfall, where it was a pretty genuine stretch of gameplay. My expectation is how the rest of the developer direct was, where we're going to get snapshots of pretty much everything else in the game we have yet to see. If Todd Howard is telling the truth that there is a lot that's been packed into this game, you got to think about it, right? We haven't seen choice and consequence on display. We haven't seen the breadth of options when you're exploring space. We haven't really seen in action landing on the ground, flying around on the planet's atmosphere, and what that's like, and how you go to space. We haven't seen what it's like to amass a crew.
To be clear, I don't think they're going to show us, I don't think they're going to show us the like planet to space transition unless they've got something really cool to show where they fixed the load screen thing. Because right now, as far as we understand it from the interviews that have been given, there's a load screen between the two. And so when you go from the planet surface into space, there's a load screen that happens, and then you're in space. Then you go to the next planet, and then there's another load screen before you go to the planet surface. which is a little bit of a bummer for me because since like 2016, with like No Man's Sky, that's been a thing that you could just go from the planet's surface into space. So it's a little bit of a bummer that there's going to be a load screen. Now, if they fixed it and they have something that they've added where there is a smooth transition between the two, okay. And there's ways they could mask this, to be fair. There's ways they could cover it up where like, it, you know, there's like a white blur that happens, or like in Star Wars when they go to light speed and then you get the stretchy stars. You could do something like that to transition out of it that covers up a load screen. I still think it would be, you know, less interesting than if it just natively supported it, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. However, I don't think that they've done that because it's Bethesda and usually they're not like, it's not magical. They don't just pull stuff like that out of their butts. So I don't think that they can do that, but I would love to be surprised. That being said, I don't think we'll see examples of that because, again, you remember Todd Howard being a great salesman. He's not going to allow you to focus and view things that would lower your hype level. He's only going to show you stuff that increases that hype level. So they're going to be selective with what they show you, and it's going to be the stuff that gets you excited. So I think they're going to show the base building. They're going to show a lot of time, or spend a lot of time showing the ship building. They'll probably show a little tidbit of a quest line that's particularly cool. Maybe building a crew, maybe. But a lot of that stuff I think they're going to keep quiet because they know that if you see how it actually works, it might kill a little bit of your hype. That would be my expectation.
There are so many little intricacies within the mechanics we know on a broader level that we have yet to see explored and explained to us. And there are a couple of ways that Bethesda could go about it. Given the length of the showcase, I imagine they're going to dive deep. But how deep do you want to go when only a couple of months later, we're going to have the game in our hands? You're going to hopefully go spoiler free and not do what you did with Fallout 4 and show one of the end game shots. I remember a lot of people critiqued me for having an issue with that, but I am standing on my square. I pray, Bethesda, you do not spoil part of the game as part of your presentation. The game will sell regardless of that. I can't help but think of God of War.
Well, especially because like Bethesda fans are so diehard that they're going to be scrubbing every frame of all of this. So if there is a spoiler somewhere, they're going to find it. They're going to do it. But Bethesda are the kings of loading screens. Yeah, it's just, again, expectations. It's like the Arcane thing. If you come out and you say that we're going to do a quality mode only and performance mode will come after launch, even though like that's not the biggest deal ever. That's not the biggest deal ever. It's still super disappointing for people who expected the game to live up to modern standards. And modern standards are performance mode at 60 and quality mode at 30. That's just what people expect. And with this, like, I think because of games like Starfield, or rather Star Citizen, No Man's Sky, Elite Dangerous, games like this, the expectation is going to be smooth planet to space transition. And the fact that they're not going to do that, as far as we know, is going to be seen as a disappointment.
Or Ragnarok, where the fans were getting impatient, some were getting concerned. What's going on with this game? It's supposed to be coming out in November, but you're not showing us anything. And then PlayStation shows up with one trailer, one controller. They're like, here you go, see you in November. And the game sold millions of copies, showing that you don't need to really pour it on for marketing, but this is more a Bethesda Game Studio special that I'm going to enjoy while it's the norm, because I don't know if it'll forever be the norm. But look no further than Fallout.
I mean, I would agree. Like, God of War Ragnarok had a really weird marketing strategy. It was very, very hush-hush, very minimal. So I would agree. However, I would say that that is the exception to the rule, not the new rule. And the reason why they could do that is because hype levels were so freaking high, and they knew that this was a sequel to a very narrative game, and anything that they showed could be construed as a spoiler. And a lot of the coolest moments in God of War Ragnarok were things that would be considered spoilers if you saw them. I mean, some of those, even like a fight with Thor in the first few hours, I considered to be a spoiler. So there's no easy way to showcase that game without spoiling stuff that you don't need to spoil. So they just decided not to spoil it, you know? Which is easy. So I hope they don't do that with Starfield, because I think Starfield has more to convince people of, but
76, I implore those of you who are really curious on this subject, if you go back and even skim through the Fallout 76 E3 showcase, you'll notice that the clips that we saw were very selective. We saw one trailer, one PvP shot, and that was mostly it. Otherwise, it was talking a lot about the game, and hindsight 2020, I was definitely a little bit curious heading into launch, but there were some red flags there. Now, 76 seems to be hopefully an anomaly, but it just goes to show that Bethesda game studios themselves have actually done presentations that are longer and not shown much at all. I don't think that'll be the case with Starfield, but it's worth thinking about given some of their previous showings. But the reality is Bethesda could choose to not show us a lot here, and I do think a lot of this is going to be developers talking more than actual gameplay, because we're going to be so close to launch by that point. So that leads into the next talking point. What are we going to see here at the Developer Direct beyond the obvious gameplay and features? What kind of features? I actually think, based off a lot of recent interviews we've seen with Todd Howard, that modding is going to be a big focus here at this showcase. I think that this is something that Bethesda is starting to put more and more in the eyes of the mainstream now that they got console mods down. We have the rumors of a Skyrim marketplace. I think they want to present the idea that with the thousands of planets that you're going to see in this game, one of the negative talking points has been, well, some of them will just be ice ball. Some of them will just be empty that you'll be able to decorate with your settlement mode. And for some, that is a major drawback of the game, and fairly so. Wouldn't it be a great counter talking point to say, we've got modders, we've got tools, we've got ways to support these empty worlds, and here's how you can get started right away. Usually it takes a little bit of time for modding tools to get into the hands of fans, but imagine if it was there, boom, day one. That would be really exciting to see if it was just there and people get started right away. I think that's something they're going to lean into a lot with this, as we continue to hear Todd's desire to support these modders, give them more to do, help them make careers out of it. I really think we're going to see Bethesda bask in that, because given Bethesda's current roadmap, which is now confirmed that
I don't know, modern mods are weird because they want to bring them to consoles, but then they also want to be able to get some money for them. So I don't know, man. I don't know. But then again, they also seem to be backing off of the Creation Club thing. Maybe I'm wrong, but like, anybody in chat, do you guys know? As far as I understand it, they're backing off of the Creation Club stuff. They're chilling out with it. But maybe I'm mistaken. But I thought that they were like releasing patches, pulling stuff like that out of the game and tweaking stuff. But maybe they aren't. I don't know. It's weird. It seems like they tried to monetize it the best they could, but there's rumors of doubling down on it with Skyrim. We have no idea what's going on with Creation Club. I don't know. It might be, I mean, at this point, it's probably honestly just up to Xbox. I think a lot of that was created back before the acquisition because they wanted to make sure that they were more appealing to Xbox for an acquisition, to be like, look, we're bringing in lots of money from this. But I don't know if Xbox sees that as part of their plan, you know? I guess we'll find out.
After Starfield is Elder Scrolls 6, and then after Elder Scrolls 6 is Fallout 5, you got to find a way to keep Starfield relevant for over a decade now, until there's another Starfield game, I would hope. And so, how do you do that? You have the fans make the content, and I think that needs to be a focal point immediately. So that's my assumption, that they're going to definitely get into modding. The only time that it wasn't really a conversation was 76, where they did promise it and they never delivered the actual modding experience, which stinks, because I think that game could really benefit from mods, and that would increase the player count even more so for 76. So I'm expecting that. Am I expecting trailers leading into June? No. I find the silence here very interesting. I think we might get into the Starfield, but I feel like Bethesda is rather choosing to gear up for maybe filling out those dead months that come after the showcase. What I would prefer right now is the anticipation building up for the big moment that's going to happen in June, rather than kind of spoon feeding, drip feeding us little tidbits here and there in these Into the Starfield episodes. And then after June, it's nothing. For me, one of the toughest parts about that Fallout 4 hype cycle was just the absolute drought that there was following June. It was just nothing. after that point in time. The difference is this year we have QuakeCon, which has been confirmed to be an in-person event. And I find this very exciting because Bethesda Game Studios has shown up to QuakeCon in the past and shown off their respective games there. And they always have a little opening keynote. And I feel like this year, when you're a month away from Starfield having your own showcase, you got to give a little something to the fans, I feel. So I think we'll see something at QuakeCon for sure. So I do think, yes, after the showcase is when the marketing will really begin in earnest. And I would rather that. I would rather the push be then, not before. Because I've seen the before, and I don't think it's as effective as when it is after and that sustained hype. Also, there's going to be opening night live, which potentially Xbox could take advantage of. So I just think there's too many windows for Starfield to take advantage of where we would definitely see it after the developer direct. Now, the question after that is, what about after launch? Is Bethesda going to...
The question after that is, will it be poopy? I think there's a good chance. I don't know.
talk about DLC, expansions, that type of stuff during the developer direct? And I think this is more of a news drop.
Talking about a Starfield sequel before you even get it. I mean, to a certain extent, like, these BGS fans are diehard. I mean, they will go to the grave loving this company. And I get it. I mean, these games hold a very special place in a lot of people's hearts. However, I do think sometimes it gets a little ridiculous. Like, sometimes it's like, guys, can we calm down? Because, like, we haven't even gotten the game yet. We don't even really know what the data, like, what the actual hour by hour gameplay looks like. And we're already like, okay, when are we getting the DLC and the mods, and when are we getting the multiplayer variant and all of that stuff? Because that's one thing people haven't said. This is a single player game, yes, but Fallout 4 was created, and then immediately after they went in and started working on Fallout 76 because they wanted to have something to monetize that franchise for the next 10 years while they worked on the other stuff for Starfield and Elder Scrolls. So I don't know. It does get a little ridiculous at times, though. Far Harbor is what Fallout 4 should have been. Exactly. I totally agree. Far Harbor is, like, really, really, really good. Isn't that the plan, though? Fallout, Elder Scrolls, and Starfield is going to be immediate future for Bethesda. I think what they've said is Starfield, and then Elder Scrolls, and then after that, I don't think that they've said what they're doing next. Maybe they confirmed that they're doing a sequel to Starfield. I'm not sure. Maybe they just go on a rotation, but I don't know. I don't know if they've confirmed anything.
You spoon feed maybe a month ahead of launch, 2 months ahead of launch. Maybe they time out something where creators such as myself and press can play the game, because what I learned with Redfall when I went out and played that game was a lot of interviews were held with Harvey Smith and multiple other members of Arcane, and so a lot of information came out at once. And one thing we really learned about that was solidified, even though we had an idea there was planned post-launch support, was that there were going to be multiple hero characters. And so now we have a better idea of what the plan is after the launch. So I think this is something we're not going to hear about during the developer direct, because the idea, I hope, of the developer direct is to sell me on the actual game itself, not what's to come. That's what we saw Suicide Squad do, and now we at least have seen it reported, it has yet to be officially confirmed, that the game is going to be delayed for a while. And so I'm not really concerned about that. I trust that Starfield is going to focus on the now, not the later, if Bethesda was anything to go by. I just hope that when we do hear about expansion plans, that it doesn't take the Fallout 4 route, where they announce this season pass with very little details, and they say, oh, by the way, we're extending it. If you buy into it now, you'll get the rest as a part of the season pass. Otherwise, it's going to cost more money. And we ask them, what are they going to do? And they tell us, we don't know yet. That, to me, felt so dishonest, and I was very disappointed by that. Even in my Fallout 4 fanboy days, I was pretty disappointed by that move. And so I hope they stay away from those types of practices, which I think nowadays, funny enough, is easier to sell. The kind of blind, yeah, you'll get more down the line, but I personally hope they just focus on nailing this launch, because then we'll be hungry for more. And I think more people should take a page out of the Elden Ring book, which is just focus on the launch, focus on the now, and then give people a lot more with a big expansion later. That's what I'm personally hoping for with Starfield. Collector's editions. Are we going to get anything like that? Special editions. I think so. People may have forgot this was something we covered last year, but there was a leak for a Starfield Constellation style smartwatch. Now, if it's going to be like the Fallout 4 Pip-Boy edition, maybe it comes with that collector's edition.
Please no.
Otherwise, I think when it comes to the Starfield collector's edition, this could just be a expensive piece of merchandise. We've seen Bethesda sell that as part of their...
You remember that? Oh man, that was so stupid. Whatever happened to those? Playing Fallout 4 with the Pip-Boy.
Hello, welcome to Outside Xbox, and a spoiler
You remember
for
this?
how the Fallout 4 companion app actually works when it's connected to the game and wedged in the Pip-Boy.
Remember, it was a big plastic thing. You put your phone on it. There was an app.
Wi-Fi to the same network as your Xbox One, or PS4, or PC if that's your jam. This app only works when you're on your home network rather than a mobile phone signal, so sadly you can't tinker with your outfit while you're sitting on the bus. Offline mode will let you browse your gear and stats while you're not connected, but you can't make any changes. The next thing to double check is that the Pip-Boy app option is enabled in the settings menu, but it should be switched on by iPhone 6 at least. The default was absolutely fine. Next, you have the option to choose your platform and connect to the game. Assuming you don't have military grade network security, the app should find your Xbox almost instantly. The next bit is where you're going to wish that you'd waited to clumsily insert the phone. Unless your Xbox Live username and password only utilize the left-hand side.
Yeah, modern phones are not fitting in this either.
The keyboard, you're going to have to pop the thing open again to type it in. And
then they have the big battery fully exposed.
We go through this stuff so you don't have to. Also, no, you can't see my password. Of course, at this point in the game, you don't have your Pip-Boy yet, but that's cool. You can get it all connected up ahead of time. Eventually, you'll get to a point in the game where you can grab a Pip-Boy from this science skelly and pop it on your in-game wrist. Don't be alarmed, the app still won't connect at this point even though you have the Pip-Boy on your TV screen. It springs into life the moment you hit the button for the vault door. As I'm sure you've guessed, the app allows you to access all of the menus and options on the in-game Pip-Boy without ever having to pause the game. Convenient when you're wandering the wasteland, probably marginally less convenient when you're surrounded by bandits and attempting to swap weapons. You can always fall back on the in-game one though if you need to pause for a breather. One thing that can be handy in a pinch is the fact that the shortcuts for Stimpack and Radaway are both touch buttons on the main status screen.
What's funny though is like you have to set down the controller to do it. So like it's meant to be, oh, it's kind of convenient, but you have to set down the controller, press it, and then grab it. Or hold in left hand, press it. But either way, you're letting go. It's like a fun initial idea, but I'm shocked that they spent a lot of money, probably like hundreds of thousands of dollars developing this. It's wild.
The screen you'll probably want to leave on as you're exploring is the map screen. It's much easier than fiddling with the in-game one every time you want to check your heading, and the app updates absolutely in real time, even if you're spinning wildly in a circle. If you fancy a bit of music as you explore, you can switch between radio stations from your wrist as well.
This was something I don't remember hearing like anything about. I remember them announcing it and then nobody using it.
Even if you have one drawn at the time, though the trade-off is that you do lose that quick access to the Stimpack shortcut, so you might want to make sure you've got that assigned to a D-pad.
Sounds good, Matt. Thanks for dropping by.
You can also play holotape game Red Menace on the app using the touchscreen, or confusingly, use the app to boot up Red Menace in the game and play it on the in-game Pip-Boy. So many ways to play Red Menace. Clearly though, the main reason to use this is having the option to throw your clothes off at the touch of a button, worth the price of admission alone. Thanks for watching this quick look at the Fallout 4 companion app. Like and
I don't know, man. I don't remember anybody using that. How to make a cheap Pip-Boy: buy a phone case for your phone, buy 1 to 2 wristbands, stick the wristbands to the phone case, put it on your arm, launch the app. Congrats to me, the cheap Pip-Boy. Now that's what a game app should be like. Well done, Bethesda. Are you watching, Ubisoft? I mean, it sounds like it worked. It's just like, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, but why though? Like you use it for 5-10 minutes, but like every time you play Fallout 4, are you really strapping that thing on? Probably not. It's like kind of fun, I guess. It's whatever.
Their gear store, but I definitely think there's going to be some sort of collector's edition involved.
Oh, for sure. If they sell like a smartwatch for $500, okay, maybe not 500, like $200, it's going to sell it instantly. Instantly. Zero doubt. Zero doubt.
With this game. with that comes the interesting question that Xbox has brought to our attention through multiple moves, which is early access. There are a lot of people who noticed that Forza Horizon 5 did extremely well with 2 million people buying into the premium add-ons bundle, which would give you the game a weekend ahead of time for the price of, I think, $30. And a lot of folks in the Xbox community are now looking at other Xbox games and wondering, okay, how are they going to sell us these games early? When you look at Hogwarts Legacy and its insane success at launch, in the early access period, breaking records, absolutely nuts, right? So to me, I look at something like that and I think, why wouldn't other companies want to do that? Do I like when companies do that? No. My mantra is, if it's ready, sell it then. If it's ready 3 days early, see you there. Everybody, not just people who want to pay extra money. But this is the business reality. And I get why companies do it, because it's easy money and you don't got to do anything with it. And would I rather that or microtransactions? Yeah, I'll take the early access any day of the week. But when it comes to the collector's edition, it could be tied into that. This premium early access edition that you pay maybe $90 for, but you get Starfield 3 days early. I mean, tempting, that's for dang sure. And I knew many people who were not willing to wait for Hogwarts Legacy. I personally didn't wait because of my coverage, but I know friends who are not even crazy into games and went, I'm buying this, I'm buying the most expensive version, I gotta get this as soon as possible. So Xbox will be wise to take advantage of that, and I think that would tie into one of their collector's editions. I hope they don't. I hope we all get it on the same day so no one gets spoiled for such a highly anticipated game. But definitely collector's edition.
Hold on. Okay. Can somebody in chat link me something? I'm really not sure if the hype for Starfield is as high as people are assuming it is. Because when like Fallout 4 came out, I remember people I was doing like plays with and musicals with at the time, I remember them talking about it. Same with Hogwarts Legacy. I mean, everybody was talking about Hogwarts Legacy, even non-gamers. I've heard like nothing about Starfield from casual gamers. And maybe it's just the people I know, but as far as my anecdotal experience is concerned, the interest level in this is far beneath other established franchises that they've done. So like I don't think, of course it's not going to be as high as like, you know, a Harry Potter themed game, but I do not think that this is as crazy anticipated as a lot of gamers are just assuming it is, you know. And maybe, you know, I'll have pie on my face when the game comes out and it sells 50 million copies overnight. But I don't know. I'm a little more, I'm not sold on it because I don't hear like anybody talking about it. The game looks generic as hell, TBH, and there are already games that scratches the sci-fi space itch. Well, that's where you have to like, it begs the question, where you have to wonder like, what is the thing that makes this game like really stand out? What is it doing that none of these other games are doing? And as far as I can tell, it's probably the RPG mechanics and maybe the ability to build your own ship. That's pretty cool. That's not really something that you'll see in, I mean, you can tweak your ship in Star Citizen, but I mean, let's be real. It's not fully modular like it's going to be in Starfield. So that like that stuff could be cool, but I don't know what this game is bringing that no other game is incapable of bringing, or that makes this really stand out.
I think will happen. We've seen Bethesda continue to do that. Hopefully the quality is higher this time around compared to Fallout 76, where there was the canvas bag shortage that everyone joked about, and a lot of the collectible goodies seemed lower quality, like the bottle of alcohol that did not use the right material either. There was a lot of question marks surrounding the materials and quality of 76's collectibles, and I hope they shoot a little bit higher now that they're with Xbox and this is a big premium AAA game. So that's overall what I'm expecting right now. I'm expecting to see a lot of Starfield after June, not much beforehand. I think they're building up the cachet, if you will, to just fire away month after month leading into that launch. I think if we see anything leading into June, it may be an Into the Starfield or one of those sit-downs with Constellation questions. But I feel like, what's the point in doing it now if we're going to answer those questions so soon? We're just a couple months away, and with that potential half-hour showcase, I think within it, we're going to see modding, obviously a decent amount of expansions on the gameplay mechanics we already know, getting into the depth of that. And I think we're also going to see some type of collector's edition showing up, but not much in the terms of DLC until later. We'll see if I'm correct on that, but I'm looking forward to seeing your guesses. Where do you think Bethesda's going to go with their showcase of Starfield? What are your expectations? For me, of course, extremely excited, but beyond that, it's anyone's guess. So I look forward to seeing yours down below. And with that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will...
Yeah, I don't know, man. Jennifer Alvarez says, I hope they show some companion interactions. Rick Stan, there is a precedent for devs giving mod tools early. Paradox, oh, they're not going to give mod tools early. I'd be stunned if they did that. Love listening to your video about Starfield. Can't wait for release. I don't know, man. Something is weird about it. Something's weird. Maybe I'm just a negative Nancy, but something is weird about it. I've had this gut feeling before. A lot of the time this gut feeling comes with like Callisto Protocol. I had this gut feeling where just something wasn't quite sitting right. But man, I'm worried now. Sorry, I'm checking the thing Jacob just sent over. Oh, yeah, it's a little sussy, not gonna lie. And I don't know if it's just because like this is where I'm trying like really hard to evaluate, at least as in my mind, fairly as I can, what's happening with this, because it really does feel like, at least to me, there's something a little off. But I don't know if it's just because I'm so bitter towards Bethesda for all of this crap, or what. Like, you know, there's just something not quite right with all of this, and I don't know. Just melted my shoes finishing up a work day with asphalt. Be home by 4, then a J and some RE4. It's a good day. That sounds good, Brandon. Long day's work, get home, relax. There's something that just feels so good about getting home and blasting the AC. I don't know what it is. It's just you get home, you blast it, you get kind of chilly even though it's hot outside. That to me is like that calms my spirit. Sherlock Holmes. The Awakened? Is that the new one? The review just dropped. Oh. For those of you not aware, I really like these kinds of games. These like Sherlock Holmes games. They never do well. The videos on them never do well, so I've just kind of given up on trying to do that. But I've always been a fan, and I like these games a lot. So I'm intrigued that there's a new one, and apparently reviews just dropped. I am anticipating, though, the review will not be very good because these games never review super well. They're very niche, and they're kind of clunky and weird. So I get it, but still. By the way, I still can't get this freaking mod working. I don't know what the deal is. Oops. Let's see.
What the hell is happening, Holmes?
Calm yourself.
While 2021's Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1 had the world's most iconic detective confronting the ghosts from his past, Sherlock Holmes The Awakened has him dusting off his Deerstalker cap in order to investigate a cult worshipping a cosmic Cthulhu-like presence. However, despite the clear influence of H.P. Lovecraft, The Awakened presents a mystery that's surprisingly light on scares, with the majority of its attempts to unsettle coming across as more silly than genuinely spine-chilling. Although there was still a solid amount of investigations and crime scene recreations to sink my teeth into over the course of its 10 hours, it was hard to fully buy into Sherlock's supposed battles with his own sanity at the center of the story, when I struggled to find anything to fear in his surroundings.
This place gives me the chills. What are we dealing with?
That booty.
Something that's finally interesting.
A remake of the 2007 adventure of the same name, Sherlock Holmes The Awakened has been rebuilt using the same game engine that powered Chapter 1, and its plot has been retooled slightly in order to make it fit in as a direct sequel to that 2021 origin story. The friendship between Holmes and Dr. John Watson is presented as being in its infancy, with Watson
This is Frogware, right? I'm pretty sure Frogwares, sorry. Yeah, it's Frogwares. Frogwares is a company that's just has had one thing after another happen to them. They had that lawsuit where the previous publisher basically tried to, it sounded like allegedly, they tried to steal the game, so sell it without permission from the studio and against contract disputes. But it's also like the second or third time this specific thing has happened with Frogwares. So it's like, at what point do you ask if it's me? You know, if your company keeps getting in lawsuits because publishers are stealing your game or are selling it without your permission, or you think it's without your permission, at what point do you go, maybe I'm the one that's causing the contractual disputes? Maybe I'm not understanding the contracts. I don't know. It's just crazy because I can't think of another studio that's had this happen, and Frogwares has had it happen like twice. It's really, really weird. I don't know how that happens, but yeah, their games are always very niche. They have a devoted fan base that plays pretty much all of them, but they never review super well. And I'm anticipating that that's what's happening here, even though it looks like there's some dispute. Some of those fans are not happy with this review. I'm guessing he's going to come out with like a 6 out of 10.
Regularly pressing Holmes for information about what went down on the island of Cordona in Chapter 1 in an effort to peel back the layers and find out exactly what makes the detail-obsessed detective tick.
Cordona does sound rather magical. Do you think you shall ever return? I don't know.
While the writing and performances are of a reasonable standard, the dialogue scenes between the two crime-busting BFFs would probably have been a lot more engrossing were I not so regularly distracted by the extremely loose lip-syncing, which makes...
That is another thing that they've been doing. It is very much a thing. Very much a thing. It's also, what was it? The studio, Don't Nod. They did Vampire and they did the, what is it? Life is Strange. Those games, they all have really weird lip syncing, and they like doubled down on it, and they're like, oh, it's not a bug, it's a feature, it's part of our art style, but it's like, it looks like a bug because it doesn't look good. I hate to be the guy that has to tell you that, but yeah, they've got the same thing where their lip sync is always just a little off. But it is one of those things, once you've gotten used to it, because you've played one or two of their games, you tune it out. It's like the thing we were talking about earlier with the Bethesda blinders, where you stop seeing the bugs and glitches because you just kind of tune it out. It's like that, but for lip sync.
Makes it seem like each character is delivering their lines directly into the hot end of a hairdryer.
He's smart in some ways, but he can't talk. Not a word.
Unlike
Okay, that was rough. that one, I can understand why that would be distracting. I've played a lot of these games, and I feel like I have a pretty high tolerance for it, because I'm not playing these games for lip syncing. You play it for the story, the puzzles, that type of thing. But that was...
Chapter 1, which populates delivering their lines directly into the hot end of a hairdryer.
He's smart in some ways, but he can't talk. Not a word.
Unlike Chapter 1, which populates its open-world island setting with a variety of cases and side stories to uncover, The Awakened is a far more linear affair that sends Holmes and Watson globetrotting from the streets of London to an asylum in the Swiss Alps, then to the swampland of New Orleans, and then back to London again. The bulk of these settings present a substantial space to explore, but there's almost no incentive to do so since I found little of consequence to uncover off the main story path.
The fisherman's hut. not what we're looking for.
In fact, it wasn't until I'd reached the final hours of the journey that I finally managed to stumble into a side case in London involving a dead spy. But it was jarringly snuffed out by Mycroft Holmes before it could develop into anything of substance. So the only real mystery surrounding it was trying to figure out why it was included at all.
Do not investigate further, do not talk about this matter to anyone, and do not ask questions. Thank you.
Forgive the intrusion. Captain Stenwick, this is my colleague Sherlock Holmes.
For the most part, Sherlock's crime scene investigations are conducted in much the same manner as they are in Chapter 1. Presented with the often grisly aftermath of some wrongdoing.
We've heard a few of these guys' reviews, and he has the exact same cadence in every single one. Like, exactly the same. It's just funny to me, because it's like, he says the thing, and then he says the thing. Like, almost every single sentence ends the exact same way. It's just funny. Like, maybe it's just his accent makes me pay attention to it more, but like the cadence is identical from sentence to sentence.
For the most part, Sherlock's crime scene investigations are conducted in much the same manner as they are in Chapter 1.
As they are in Chapter 1. And listen for that boom at the end of every sentence.
Presented with the often grisly aftermath of some wrongdoing, you must first pixel hunt your way around the scene to gather evidence like bloodstains and footprints, interview potential witnesses or known acquaintances of the victim.
Do you happen to know Kimahir's shoe size?
I wouldn't have the foggiest.
And then determine the sequence of events by shuffling through possible scenarios and the order in which they took place via a visual representation of Sherlock's imagination.
Remarkable.
Imagination. You hear that? Like, it's funny. You'll hear it every single sentence now at the end of every single one. It's just funny.
It makes total sense.
Well, it can still be rewarding.
And to be clear, the reason why I noticed this stuff is because I took like theater classes, and like I had teachers that would come and help us do public speaking stuff, and then we'd have to go on stage and we have to recite, monologues and stuff like that. And if we started to really repeat the exact same cadence from sentence to sentence, paragraph to paragraph, they would throw the book at you. I mean, they would yell at you. They'd try to embarrass you in front of the class. It was a whole thing. Like, and everybody does this, to be perfectly clear. It's part of what makes your speech identifiable, because you have a very particular cadence. You have a very particular way of saying things. You have a pace, a rhythm, because all of vocal tonality is kind of musical. Everybody has their own song that they're singing when they talk. So this is not something specific to this individual. He just has, I think because of his accent, I can pick it up very uniquely. It's a very, very identifiable and repeatable tick in his delivery. And so it's just funny. It's just funny. He sounds like a less excited G-Man Lives. G-Man Lives. That's not the G-Man that does all those those debates on like flat earth and young earth stuff. Is that somebody else? Is G-Man like a gamer YouTuber? There's a guy named G-Man. There's a guy named G-Man who does like old school, or has been doing it for like 10 years, but he does these debates with like, I don't think he's been on in a while, but modern day debates and stuff on like whether there were giants that rode dinosaurs like 10 years ago, like 5,000 years ago. It's like a whole thing. He's a reviewer of game. Okay, G-Man is somebody else then. G-Man is a crazy person, but G-Man Lives sounds like it's a video game reviewer, in which case I'm sure he's perfectly fine. G-Man, if you're ever interested, look up like G-Man flat earth debate and you will see who I'm talking about. And oh my God, it's crazy. The man is outside of his mind. It's wild.
Putting to piece it all together, there's no question that the cases in The Awakened are far more straightforward than they were in Chapter 1. Whereas the previous adventure had Sherlock
Chapter 1
investigating evidence of vampires in a graveyard or determining the whereabouts of an escaped elephant, The Awakened sticks mostly to more generic kidnappings and murder and is all the more forgettable for it. Not only are the crimes less imaginative, but there's also very little risk of failure in solving them this time around. Whereas in Chapter 1 it's possible to accidentally send innocent people to jail if you aren't methodical enough in your casework, In The Awakened, there's only ever one possible perpetrator to accuse.
Mr. Soulsby, you know more than you're letting on.
That means it can be tempting
Oh,
to
that blows. I don't like that. That's a weird change.
just brute force your way through to the right conclusion, seeing as the only potential penalty for making mistakes along the way is fewer rewards unlocked in the bonus character art menu.
Ah, that sucks. I love the idea that if I screw up, I could be sending somebody innocent to jail forever. Like, that's weirdly motivating for me to like get the case right, and to hear that they're kind of pulling that out. And it's like, oh, you just were less accurate in the case. I don't like that. That sucks.
This isn't the only area that the system has been streamlined either. Chapter 1's disguise system is ignored for the most part, and its archive research is now confined to paging through the pause menu rather than actually visiting a local newspaper office. It all results in casework that feels somewhat superficial compared to that of the previous game, and in spite of its multiple locations, it's considerably smaller in scope too. On the plus side, the ill-conceived combat sections of Chapter 1 were apparently tossed overboard on the ship ride home from Cordona, keeping the emphasis on the brainpower of Sherlock rather than the firepower of his flintlock. And that seems more appropriate for the character.
I appreciate this too, because like some of these, like, let's be real, I'm just gonna be honest. Some games, it sounds bad, some games shouldn't have combat, okay? Some games are just not, frankly, capable of it. It's not in their scope. And so when they try to do this, it just doesn't really work. Like LA Noire, the OG is a good example of having a combat system, but it's just not very good. You know, it just doesn't work that well. Lucan, thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. So yeah, there's some stuff like that just, some games don't click, doesn't click. And I'd rather them focus on the other stuff that they can do really well in the game than the stuff that doesn't work really well. You know, that's my preference.
The tooth of an adult.
Yeah, the studio that did LA Noire shut down, right? Yeah, so it was Team Bondi or Bondi, depending on who you ask. But Team Bondi or Bondi, they shut down shortly after. They had started a sequel and then it was shut down and abandoned. And it's a bummer. It wasn't technically Rockstar. It was published by Rockstar, but it blows. I think I did a video a while back where I broke down all of that in detail. Maybe I pulled that up.
Male likely lost in a beating. Only a couple of days old. Wait, what's happening?
Instead of breaking up the casework with combat, The Awakened occasionally drags Sherlock into a craggy, Lovecraftian otherworld and forces you to complete a series of environmental puzzles in order to return him to reality. However,
it sounds like they just had all these assets left over from the sinking city and they just said, let's just do Sherlock Holmes but with the sinking city assets we just made. I don't blame them for doing that, but it does start to feel like this was less about creating the best thing ever and just more about recycling what they already had, you know.
However, the solutions to these puzzles are either painfully obvious, typically following audible drones to locate floor panel switches and the like, or unintentionally hilarious, at times requiring you to repeatedly throw Sherlock off ledges or into spiky traps, like he's Bill Murray desperately trying to escape the cycle of Groundhog Day.
Oh no!
As a result,
Groundhog Day is a dark movie. We watched it when I was little. And I remember thinking it was like pretty funny and liking it. But dude, it's like pretty dark. He gets trapped in this day that never ends. And no matter what happens, it always restarts. Even if he died, he just wakes up in the same bed all over again. Groundhog Day. And oh my God, it's like actually quite dark. It's a little upsetting.
Result, these dreamlike diversions are about as psychologically scarring as a stubbed toe, and don't do a particularly good job of conveying Sherlock's apparently fraying mental state. Occasionally, hallucinations and other encounters intended to disturb will bleed into the real world too, but these are arguably even more goofy. Retrieving a doll for a patient in the archaic Edelweiss mental hospital culminates in an act of ventriloquism that's more hokey than horrific.
Tell him!
But you said...
And now I say tell him!
while the mutterings of an animated corpse in a crypt beneath the port of London sound like the gargling of a caveman discovering mouthwash for the first time.
John?
It is worth pointing out the somewhat extreme circumstances surrounding the creation of The Awakened. Developer Frogwares is based in Ukraine, and a disclaimer that greets you ahead of the title screen states that development of this remake commenced only a couple of months after Russia began its invasion of the country in early 2022. Game development is an incredibly challenging business at the best of times, and I can't imagine the levels of stress that the threat of war would inflict on all personnel involved. Unfortunately, that adversity is evident in The Awakened, which suffers numerous cut corners, from the abrupt transitions between several late-game sequences to the recycling of character models and other assets throughout the adventure. I wasn't alive in 1882, so I can't be certain that newsstands in London weren't identical to those in New Orleans, but I doubt it.
My head. What just happened?
While Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1 may have its own fair share of flaws, it was still reasonably competent as a detective simulation. In comparison, this remade version of The Awakened feels far more like an inferior throwback to old-fashioned point-and-click adventures, where trial and error was just as effective an approach as logic and reason, making its forensic deductions feel more like foregone conclusions.
Now, spare trouble and tell me all you know.
Okay.
This wouldn't be so bad if its Lovecraft-inspired mystery was compelling enough to sustain interest in its run-of-the-mill casework, but unfortunately it fumbles that too, with its ham-fisted attempts at horror more likely to tickle ribs than raise hairs. Sherlock Holmes The Awakened could have been an intriguing clash of Cluedo with Cthulhu, but instead it's just a case of squandered potential.
Mediocre. Wow. Yeah, Frogwares Sherlock Holmes games have always been quite niche in their appeal, but they work for me given they're making the game in the middle of a war zone. It's pretty impressive they got it out at all. I'm conflicted on that because I agree. I agree that it's impressive that they got it out. And I feel for them, absolutely. But it's also like at the end of the day, they're still charging you money for it. And so like, are you saying that you should give them money and excuse those things just because? Like, that gets tricky. Like, I think it explains the issues, but do those issues get excused? There's a difference between explaining why corners were cut and excusing it. And I think while this explains it, it doesn't excuse it, if that makes sense. I don't know. Let's see. This one says, if IGN was honest, they would begin the video by mentioning that the game was developed in Ukraine in the middle of war, instead of waiting until the end of the video and referring to it as somewhat extreme circumstances. I mean, he mentioned it. Like, what do you want from him? To, like, I don't know. I don't see how that's dishonest of them. I don't think it's even necessary. Like, I think it's a good inclusion. I think it's good to mention that so people can understand what went on during the development. But I don't think, like, if you're reviewing a game, you're reviewing a game. You know? Like, you're reviewing the product. They have a studio in Dublin as well. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't know they were in Ukraine, but I guess maybe that explains it. Colt Eastwood. It's a 5 going with you, Day.
John?
Yeah. Oh, man. Big bummer. Do you follow anything related to 40K? Not really. My buddy Caleb follows it really closely. He started painting all the minifigures and stuff, but I don't keep up with it. Let's see. Luke, would you react to dating podcasts like the Whatever podcast, which I'm going to be on? I'd love to see your take on Gen Z dating shenanigans. I know that that's never going to happen because it's not games. I mean, Mr. K, I don't know. If it was really funny, I could see that. Like, if it was really freaking funny. We'll do segments that aren't gaming related, specifically that are more pop culture and stuff. So we'll do stuff like that occasionally. But I'm not gonna just like sit and watch a podcast, you know. But if there's like a really ridiculous moment that happens in it that is interesting, then we can talk about it, you know. Flying mod is up. No, apparently it did in fact break with the latest update to the game, so it's going to require them to update the mods, which is a bummer, but what are you going to do? There's no way for me to get it going. The most hyped news today is that Gollum went gold. Of course it did. Thank God. Did we get podcast news today? Not officially. I'm still waiting for confirmation that we're shooting on Friday. We ran into a couple of delays once again. But I kind of like the idea of like announcing it out of nowhere on Friday when we go, you know? I don't know. I told Rocky who the co-host is, Steffi. Honestly, you could probably get Rocky to tell you. Honestly. Yeah, I will be playing Jedi Survivor. Oh yeah, I don't know if we're gonna get it in time for review. That's kind of up to EA. So I'm not sure, but we'll see. Anyway. Let's see. The thing for me is these games is they need to be very intelligent. Allowing the player to solve crimes must be difficult as players aren't of the same ability in solving things. Yeah, Andy, and it's really, really tricky to figure out, like, how do you have consequence and then also make things fair? Like, how do you make it so somebody can solve a crime, but they could get it wrong? Because if they get it wrong, then you want the player to be punished. But is the punishment the psychological torment of maybe they weren't guilty? Or later in the game, you find out that they weren't guilty? Like in LA Noire, you just kind of solve crimes and you clip along at a steady pace. And if you got the case wrong, you get less commendations and there is sort of punishment for it, but not really. So there's a bunch of little stuff like that happens. But I don't envy them. Like, it's very, very difficult to get something to make a detective game really click. It's very difficult. Are you going to play the Horizon Forbidden West DLC? It comes out in a week. Yes, I will. I've been trying to get a hold of Sony for review codes, but no luck so far. I don't think they liked that I made fun of their DualSense Edge controller. I didn't like it. I'm going to tell you I don't like it. If I like it, I'll tell you I like it. That's kind of the whole point, right? That's kind of the whole point. So, yeah, cry me a river. We'll see, though. I'm going to send him a follow-up email here in a little bit. Yeah, you're slowly bashing every company to the point of no codes. Yeah, I think, if we keep growing and, the channel gets to like 1 million subs, that's at a point where they kind of have to deal with it, and they'll play nice at that point. Weirdly, the companies that have been the most understanding of negative feedback have been Ubisoft. I can tear them a new one. I called AC Valhalla. Sorry.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
A travesty, and they still sent me swag and merch, and I'm on all their lists, and they email me to just check in and see how I'm doing. Like, they are amazing. And EA has been very, very understanding of negative feedback. They still chat with me. Review codes are limited, and there's whole things. I think what it is I'm not considered like a reviewer. I'm considered like a gaming influencer. So they have me categorized as somebody who will stream the game, will play the game, will talk about the game, will critique the game after it's launched. But my priority for them is not reviews on day one, which I can understand because I do these huge critiques, and when somebody looks me up, they see my big critiques, so their understanding is that that's more of what I do. Let's see, Steffi. Okay, that's surprising. Either they don't see reviews or that's they're only positive. Yeah, a lot of popular shows don't get codes. Last time media doesn't request any codes, and GameRanks actually doesn't get most codes. They don't even ask for them. Jake Baldino discussed this. Yeah, it's tricky. There are some people, again, if they consider you like a reviewer, the reviewer, then they will send you them regardless, because they're like, okay, you're going to talk about it, you're going to get us good press, boom. But for my stuff, a lot of it is that they know, this is something I talked with my managers about, they know that I'm going to cover the game if it's big enough, whether I get a code or not. So they're like, we don't really need to send him an early access code because he's still going to make the critique. He's still going to do all of that. So why take the risk of sending him a code and getting bad press when we could just let him buy the game and then talk about it after launch? Which I totally understand. That makes sense. Yeah, I think influencer is often a dumb term, but I guess Luke literally influences buying decisions. Yeah, well, and that's why, like, on the one hand, reviewers are technically, and in a very literal way, they are influencers, because they will help determine whether you buy something or don't. So it makes sense. So makes sense. I feel so bad for Guerrilla Games. Both of the Horizon games have launched at such unfortunate times. Yeah, unfortunate times. They've never really had the chance to be the single dominating force during their launch window. But it's also, at the same time, I think it's just that the games are beloved by some, but by others. Like for me, I thought that Forbidden West was good, but not great. I thought there's a lot of design decisions in that game that are just bafflingly stupid. The overwhelming just ocean of fast travel points is bizarre. It's really, really weird to me. And there's just a bunch of little stuff like that. So, I don't know. Let's see. The bigger the corporation, the more criticism is needed. Otherwise, they get away with whatever they like. Yeah, to a certain extent, I would agree with that. I think I've heard Luke say that they didn't like the DualSense Edge opinions from Luke before. Yeah, I think that is part of it. The other part of it is like they didn't respond to anything I requested. I sent many emails asking about early access to The Last of Us on PC, and they did not send anything back. And then once it came out, we saw why, and nobody got access to it. IGN didn't have access to it before it launched. And it's because they knew it was a broken pile of garbage. So they didn't send it to media to test it, to review it, or anything. But they did do that for the same update that they brought to PS5. So I think in that case, they just knew it was going to be received really poorly. And so they just said, don't send it to media. We'll just let people figure it out day one. You know? Which is stupid. I think that's the dumber decision, but what are you going to do? I hate seeing which YouTubers get codes. Most of the time, there are YouTubers who just go along with every game, no matter how bad it is. Yeah, they'll go along with it, or I don't know. There's some people who are very critical and like very critical thinkers. And while I don't agree with all of his takes on games, you know, like Skill Up, I think is being honest and reviewing things rationally and just trying to put pen to paper and explain why he likes or doesn't like something. ACG, I think, is very, very level-headed. He does the same thing. Usually I'm pretty confident. I think ACG leans more into, and Skill Up too, they both do this. I think that they are very, very prone to hating on certain publishers just because of their past performance. And I totally understand that bias. And I think I have a certain amount of that bias for a game like Bethesda Game Studios right now, or CDPR. I'm going to be very skeptical of what they bring to the table. But if it's like ACG or Skill Up reviewing the game, if it's a Ubisoft title, if it's an EA title, unless it's like Respawn, but a lot of those big publishers that have sort of not the best public opinion on Twitter or Reddit, then they're just going to tear it a new one anyways. ACG has steered away from YouTube a lot. He gets skipped often these days. Yeah, his stuff stopped showing up in my subscription feed, and I think he also was just getting demonetized left and right, and so I think he just decided that it wasn't working. I don't know where he's at now. Is he still posting to YouTube? I know he's doing like a podcast. He hasn't uploaded in in a week and a half. I watched the Dredge review. Hands-on preview. He's getting really good views. But if he's not getting monetized, then it doesn't matter. Patreon, is that where he's at now? He has a website, but it doesn't look like he's posted much. March 17th. Yeah. I don't know. Where'd he go? Just Cowboy, what do you mean? I feel like he's in the top 3 independent reviewers. I know YouTube always demonetizes him, but he's still huge. Yeah, he's huge. I think I remember him saying something about yeah, crazy to think leaving YouTube has easily been the defining and most successful step for the channel and the podcast itself. I think what he said is that the podcast left his YouTube channel, which I could have told him that's probably a good idea. Mixing podcasts, like long form podcasts, with short form content like this, YouTube's algorithms do not like it. They much prefer you to stick to like one broader type of content than toss a bunch of stuff together. But I don't know. Yeah, he talks about not getting codes or losing monetization. Well, and I feel for him, because if your content is built on having review codes and you don't get the review codes, like, that sucks. You're just screwed. At least my stuff, like my critiques, people kind of expect it to come a week or two after the game's launched. So I can get away with not getting a review code. Honestly, it probably makes more sense for me not to. Whereas for somebody like Carrick, who makes a 10-15 minute review of the game, if he misses out on that first day or two of when the embargo lifts, he's done. So I totally get it. I don't get why IGN still gets review codes 99% of the time. They put the wrong person to review the game. Simply because of the platform. IGN's website is gigantic. Everybody's heard of IGN. Has everybody heard of like ACG? No. A lot of people have, but not everybody. SkillUp gets almost every code. I haven't heard him say he hasn't gotten a code except in cases where no one gets a code. But I'd say it's because he's the biggest independent reviewer right now. And, you know, same with like Yong or me or any of these other guys. Like, we have our niche. We have people who know who we are and will care about what we say, but it's not everybody. Whereas IGN, pretty much if you're a gamer, you've heard of IGN. And if you're going to check how a game is on launch day, you're going to probably pull up their review. Even though you hate IGN, people are still going to check it. You know? I don't know. Luke, how come you refer to yourself as we? I guess I do that sometimes. I think what it is that I'm uncomfortable saying I, like me, my, moo. Like I'm uncomfortable going, yeah, and when I review games, I'm doing this and I'm doing, so I'm more comfortable saying we as in me and my team, because it's not just me. Like Jacob helps me edit reviews. People like Rocky help run the Discord and the servers and everything. It's a team effort. It's not just me. Like, I guess the reviews, you know, it's me playing and writing and stuff, but I don't know. I'm more comfortable saying we for some reason than you know, being like, it's all about me, you know? I don't know. It is weird. Call it a verbal tick. GameSpot. Yeah, GameSpot's still around. We, the cult. Yes, we are, Luke. We are all together. I guess it does start to sound weird saying I all the time. Yeah, you start to feel like you're an egomaniac. I need to calm down. Yeah, it's okay, Luke. We know that you're James McAvoy's in Split with 52 personalities. You got me. IGN is still huge, even though legacy media is falling. We forget that most gamers are casual. Most gamers don't know about SkillUp or ACG, but they know IGN. We are the minority enthusiast. Exactly, Mr. K. And that is one thing that is often a bias we have, is that we can look at something like FIFA or whatever it is now. They changed the name, I think, or Madden or Call of Duty, Warzone, and all these games that are just like brain dead. And we can make fun of it. We can be like, oh my God, IGN, Activision, all these guys suck so bad. But like the Call of Duty is the highest selling game every year. Millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of copies every year. Even if it sucks, people are like, this sucks, click, and still buy it every year. And those people, they're buying 1, maybe 2 games a year, and that's all they play. They only play Call of Duty, or they only play FIFA, or they only play Rocket League, or only Fortnite. Like, that's what they do. Or only X-Defiant. Yeah, exactly. And for those people, like, that's their bread and butter. That's what they play, and that's that. And for us, we don't tend to interact with those people because they are only playing Call of Duty. So they follow Tim the Tapman, they follow Nick Merckx, they follow Doc, they follow all these guys that are Call of Duty streamers. They're not following me. They're not following ACG or SkillUp or any of these guys. They probably have never heard of them, even though SkillUp is like almost at 1 million, ACG is almost at 1 million, Yong's over 1 million. They probably never heard of them because it's just outside of their wheelhouse. It's within gaming, but it's in a different sector. It's totally different. I would agree Doc is disrespectful. Yeah, complain every year how it's gotten worse and keep buying it. Well, then you wait 2 years and then the thing from 2 years ago is actually really good. Yeah, that's how it works for Call of Duty. Everybody's like, this game sucks. And then the next year comes out and they're like, this game sucks. And then the next game comes out and they're like, this game also sucks, but the one 2 years ago was way better. And then that just cycles further and further. Does COD still sell better than FIFA? Yes, but I think it depends on market. So like in Europe, FIFA's huge, whereas in America, it's like COD is huge. It's also huge, globally, but I think the percentage will shift based on where you are. But Call of Duty is still like the biggest franchise in the world, far and away. Yeah, that happens with Assassin's Creed 2. Yeah, everybody hates on Odyssey, and then Valhalla comes out, and then everybody starts loving Odyssey and Origins. And I remember watching a review, and I think it was Carrick from ACG. I think he said that Origins was a wait for sale. He's like, at $30, I think this is justified. And I was like, that is insane. I don't know how you argue that. That's some Ubisoft bias BS. Like, maybe you don't like the Assassin's Creed stuff, but Origins was very, very impressive. And Odyssey, very, very impressive. And my problem with Valhalla is that it's a massive game. Sure, there's a lot there, tons. My problem is that it's so repetitive, it gets incredibly boring after about 20 to 25 hours. And for a repetitive game that only is fun for 25 hours, I would require more like a $40 price tag. Just like a AA open world game that is a little repetitive or ends after 25 hours. I think that's more fair. Whereas, the full $60 for 25 hours of fun, because like there's 100 hours there, but you're probably going to want to give up after 25. That's where I draw the line. So for me, I'm saying wait for sale for Valhalla makes a lot more sense. For Origins, like it was a smaller game to begin with and it was lean. I like very, very good. Like, and my problem with Odyssey was that Odyssey, their final act really, really drags on. I mean, you have to grind at the end of that game. Luckily, what you're grinding are pretty good side quests, but it's still grinding. Andy, Valhalla bored me to tears, and I really wanted to explore my homeland in Assassin's Creed, and even Odyssey bored me because it's so huge, but I played about 70 hours. Yeah, or Odyssey starts to, especially, like I said, you reach a point, I don't remember exactly what level it is, but you reach a point where you have to start grinding to get to a certain level before the final mission. And if you don't get to that level, you're going to get smashed. So you have to go and travel all over the map and do the extra missions to boost your XP to get there. It's the whole thing. The XP booster actually makes it, like if you have the XP booster on the whole game, it actually makes the whole game very fluid and that grind disappears, which is why I think the XP booster, it's a conspiracy theory, but I think the XP booster was built and the balance was calculated such that it was accurate. So the game was balanced as if you had the XP booster on, and then they turned it off by default, made you pay for it. And if you didn't pay for it, then the process of getting to the level was totally off kilter, and it felt really weird because it wasn't balanced, because they wanted you to buy it. But it was really stupid, because if you realize, like, by the time you realize that you're in it for a long grind, it's too late. And so you buy the XP booster, but it's too late, you know, so it won't actually help. So it's not actually a solution to the problem. But it's certainly better than, like, can you imagine if they sold like $5 for 5 levels? Just jump up 5 levels as a character for $5. Can you imagine if they did that? I mean, it's basically what they're doing with the XP booster. It's just over time. But imagine if they just sold it to you for one chunk of change. That'd be crazy. Is Valhalla worth $20? Yeah, I would say for $20. You just, my big thing is with Valhalla, you just have to be, you have to understand that at a certain point, you're going to feel like just putting the controller down and moving on because you'll be bored. And at that point, do that and you're good. You can have a good time. The problem is people will have a decent time with Valhalla, and then they'll reach a point where they're bored and they force themselves to keep playing. And then by the time they reach the end, they're like, oh my God, I just had to spend half the gameplay time doing stuff I didn't want to do and feeling bored out of my mind and like hating myself. And then their overall experience is tainted. But if you just walk away at the point where you start to feel like, I'm good. Awesome. In my experience, that's usually 20 to 25 hours, which is a really good run for a game like that. Look up a story synopsis afterwards, see what happened in the story later, or wait and maybe come back to it in 6 months. I don't know. But I think that's the way to do it. It's sad seeing how Ubisoft lost it all in a few years. They were literally at the top. I don't know what the deal is, but since Valhalla, they've had like not a single release that's been deemed successful, I think. So maybe it was just COVID. Maybe COVID really did do a number and they just could not figure out how to work remote and all of that. Maybe that's what it is. Love your keyboard, Luke. What brand is it? Keychron. 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 Yeah, they make these custom mechanical keyboards, and it weighs like 10 pounds. Solid metal. Very, very nice keyboards. Heavily recommend them. For me, that was at 40 hours. Sweet. I have a Keychron too. Brown switches. Mine are red. Mine are red. I like those linear switches. Mainly because I like it being quiet for the mic, you know. Did you get Excalibur in Valhalla? Honestly, I don't remember. I do have Excalibur right there. I have the Q2 and I love it. Oh yeah, Q2. This one's the Q6, the full. I like the numpad. I like having that. Luke, which game is better in your opinion? RE4 Remake or The Last of Us 2 gameplay wise? Because they're kind of similar. This might upset some people, but without a doubt, zero question in my mind, The Last of Us Part 2 is far better mechanically than RE4 Remake. In my view, it's not even close. Like, not even close. Get triggered all you want. The gore system, the weapon customization system, the inventory management systems, the crafting systems, the prone versus crawling, stealth systems, everything. Not even close. RE4 Remake is good, but The Last of Us Part 2 is like, oh my God. Calm down, Steffi. It's okay. Yeah, Last of Us Factions, we are supposed to hear more about it later this year. Probably around the summer, we'll start to hear it. That might be their big fall release. So, yeah. Anyway, I just have a Razer keyboard. I had a freaking Corsair K60 for years. I love that keyboard. You had any water today? Yes. Oh, it just exploded a little. Yes. Crimson, did I hear you disrespect my beloved? Dude, I would love to see like a side-by-side debate trying to argue with a straight face that RE4's gameplay is more impressive and versatile than The Last of Us Part 2. Like, I seriously don't know how you make that argument. I don't know how you do that. Like, you just do side-by-sides showing gore systems, the AI of enemies, the stealth systems, the animation quality, like all of these little things. It's just not even close, dude. RE4 Remake is great. The Last of Us Part 2 is a triumph. Without RE4, there wouldn't be The Last of Us? Sure. Maybe The Last of Us Part 2 owes a lot to RE4. Doesn't change the fact that The Last of Us Part 2 versus the remake of RE4, technologically speaking, is just not even close. I don't think it's not really an insult. It's more just a crazy compliment to Naughty Dog. Still amazing, just not even close. Just different, you know? Yeah, RE4 Remake is just headshot then kick. Oh, Crimson screaming. I can just picture Crimson just like slamming at the keyboard. Just, oh my God. Oh man. Yeah, we should do a poll. Let's do a poll to wrap this up. Okay, here. Pull over here. Which is more technologically impressive in terms of gameplay? The Last of Us Part 2, RE4 Remake, or let's also toss in Red Dead 2, because I think that one also is very... The question is, which is better? Which is better is subjective, but which is more technologically impressive, or which has the better gameplay systems? Like, that is actually quantifiable. Like, there is a right answer to that. Because this one is going to be closer. Tossing Red Dead 2 in here, I think, is going to make it a little trickier. And now everybody's going to troll me. Let's see. Just played The Last of Us Part 2 for the first time a few hours ago. Got it for 15 Australian here on PS5. Oh, nice. You got to love it going on sale. Let's see. Yeah, Red Dead 2, if you're saying all gameplay systems, Red Dead 2 is hard to vote against because Red Dead 2 is just actually ridiculous. Red Dead 2 is open world though. Yeah, so I guess it's not the most clear one-to-one comparison, but if we're just saying gameplay, like mechanistically, the gameplay systems, you know, heretics, all of you. Last of Us Part 2 is Part 1, but with jump and prone. Not impressive. Crimson, have you played The Last of Us Part 2? Have you actually played it, though? Now I'm not so sure. Oh, man. Yeah, well, again, this is another example. Like, Red Dead 2, amazing. Amazing. RE4 Remake, amazing. Last of Us Part 2, amazing. They can all be great. They can all be amazing. But it doesn't, like... Oh, thank you, my babe. Thank you. Has he been good? No. Oh, I'm sorry. He's been a lot. Oh, fella. But, yeah, anyway. Games can be great. But then there's some games that are just on another plane of existence that are masterpieces. And specifically masterpieces of their time. RE4 was a masterpiece of its time. Of course, if you compare it to what Rockstar was able to do in 2018, you'd hope there'd be one hell of a difference. The remake of RE4 was trying to be true to the original. It wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel. It wasn't trying to do anything that crazy. It It wasn't trying to compete with The Last of Us or with Red Dead. And that's okay. That's okay. Everybody's aware that they weren't trying to overtake Red Dead or The Last of Us Part 2. That's okay. This is like one of those funny things, though, about like fanboyism. And I love you, Crimson. I love you dearly. But this is one of the funny things about fanboyism for me is that something like saying the technical features of a game that came 15 years or 13 years after the fact, that newer game's mechanics are more impressive than the original. That to me is like a non-controversial statement. That's very clear. You would hope that Red Dead 2, a game that they spent hundreds of millions of dollars working on, would be more impressive than the game from 2005. Better be. But to claim that it, like the game from 2005 or the remake of it, that's trying to be honest to the 2005 game and not add too much so that it's a different game, like that's crazy to me. It's wild. RE4 or Days Gone? I don't know if, technologically speaking, the original RE4 versus Days Gone, of course, Days Gone's better. If we're comparing like RE4 remake to Days Gone, I mean, Days Gone launched pretty broken. So if we're going on launch day, then I think you got to point to RE4 remake. I would say Days Gone's able to like render more zombies on screen. They have the open world aspect. So they're just different games. So it's probably not a fair comparison, but they each do things well. Steffi, I know you're right. I just really dislike The Last of Us 2. Oh, that's funny. Red Dead 2 made me truly feel like I was in the Wild West in every way. I've really felt that, or more pulled into a story and environment like RD2. Yeah, it really was phenomenal. It was very impressive. Which game gave birth to a new genre and rebirthed the gaming industry into the age of older-the-shoulder third-person games? Yeah, I mean, that's RE4. But that doesn't, like, just because this thing did something really amazing does not mean that, therefore, it's better than everything else on the planet, especially 20 years later. There are things it did back then that, for the time, were amazing. Nowadays, they're not. Like, I could look back at the original iPhone. It's like people saying the original iPhone is better than the iPhone, whatever this is, 14 Pro Max. And I'm like, no, in like every way, this is better. If the debate question is like, which changed the world more, of course I'm going to agree with you that the original game that started all of this was more transformational than this iterative thing. But if you're asking which is better, like on a basic level, if we compare features, compare systems, compare mechanics, this is better than the original iPhone in literally every way. There's not a single thing the original iPhone did better than this phone. So, like, that's why you have to be very precise about what the question is. Like, if you're saying which is more impressive technologically speaking in terms of gameplay, I think there's a clear answer for the games. Which was more, like, which had a bigger impact on the industry when it came out? That's a different question. And I think that, you know, that's one where RE4 probably wins pretty easily. Wrong, they were more durable. I don't know. You remember those original iPhones? I had a friend that bought one. He was so cool. Okay, maybe it wasn't that cool. It was in high school, so this was like, the phone was like 4 years old at the time. It was very outdated at the time. But he had an original iPhone, and like he had gotten it brand new, and he thought he was so cool with it. And that thing dented and dinged, and the screen scratched so quickly. It was crazy. Like, we take Gorilla Glass Victus for granted nowadays, I'll tell you what. I don't know, parts of them were built like bricks. Parts of them orbit, but other parts, man. Oh. Look, I accept that I had a lot of fun playing The Last of Us Part 2, but you cannot disagree or disregard the revolution that RE4 was. Well, and again, that's why the question matters. If the question is capabilities of the gameplay and dynamism and variability, things like that, The Last of Us Part 2 just wins. It just does. If you're asking the question of which has like the more impressive ray tracing, Cyberpunk or RE4 remake, of course Cyberpunk is the answer to that question. There's a right answer there, but it's because the question is very specific and we can point to one answer over the other. That's why, like, it just matters what the question is. We can say that RE4 Remake is amazing and is great, but it doesn't mean that it has to be better than everything else in every way. You know? Proto is, I'll tell you what, at the end of a sentence, correct way to do English. It seems very American casual slang type of thing to me. Usually it's at the beginning of a sentence. So it's when somebody is trying to be very like candid, where they're taking off the mask and they're just gonna go, I'll tell you what. It's like the real talk. No cap. Finna bussin'. Look here, look, listen. It's that kind of thing. You're like, I'm just going to be honest with you. Here we go. It's that kind of thing. It probably is very American. I literally have RE4 open in another tab. I have 10,000 hours on the 360 version, nearly 100 on the PC version, over 50 hours in the remake. I love this game. No one's down that, dude. But it's what's so funny about fanboys with all this is that when people are fanboys for a game, often the impression is that that game now has to be the correct answer with any question. It has to beat every other game in every category of every question that you could ask. And that just doesn't make sense anymore. Like, I love The Witcher 3. I will tell you right here and now, there are things technologically that Assassin's Creed Odyssey that are way better than what The Witcher 3 did. The water systems, the facial animations, the running animations, combat animations, all these things, way better than The Witcher 3. Do I still think The Witcher 3 is a better game than Odyssey? Yeah. But with that question, I can acknowledge that it's not the best at everything compared to everything else, you know? What's the video on my plate? Nikki brought me, it looks like sourdough bread with, an over easy egg and ham on it. Ooh, baby. I'm going to get into that. I have to launch this video and I have to do my taxes. Super fun. Yeah, don't dunk on Crimson. He's just passionate. Oh, I love Crimson. I gave Crimson a shout out in my Resident Evil 4 video. He helped me get the grasps on which guns to use and how to do it. And so we love Crimson. We love Crimson. Don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. Why do you have to be objective and analytical? Sorry, Steffi. I'm so sorry. Dude, I'm hating the taxes this year. I'll be real. Like, we set up the business in this very particular way to get tax benefits and things. So we did it for a good reason, but man, it's making it so annoying to have to go in and reconcile all the books and do it by hand. But you know what? They told me if I wanted to hire a bookkeeper to do this stuff for me, they want $300 a month. What? $300 a month to do the bookkeeping. I'm like, okay, screw that. I'm just going to learn how to do, like, come on. Like maybe $500 for the year. Okay. It's going to take you a few hours, work through it. Okay. But $300 a month. Chill out. Can't you hire a CPA? I can hire a CPA. Right now it's not a great time because they're all booked up doing everybody's taxes for them. But this coming year, I'm going to try to find a CPA that's local that I can just use. I want to use a big firm though, because I have a family member who went and hired a CPA who, I'm not kidding. The CPA went and like opened credit cards in this person's name because they had all their financial info. And so used their financial info to open open credit cards in their name, and then transferred all of their personal debt to those credit cards they had opened fraudulently, and then used their business accounts to pay off that credit card. So this person I know that had this happen to them thought that they were just like, I don't know, we just have a lot of debt. A lot of money is just disappearing. And then one day they looked into it and they're like, oh my God, this person's been stealing tens of thousands of dollars from me to pay off their credit cards and stuff. I'm pretty sure that person went to prison, but they went to prison and then they get like an order filed against them to repay the $80,000. But guess what? They don't have the $80,000, especially not while they're in jail. So just lost all that money. So I'm a little scared of just hiring a CPA just a singular person to do it. I like the idea of having like a firm where there's like 5 people that are checking it. And so there's no case for one person to make that oopsie, you know? Can you imagine if you just look into it one day and you find out somebody stole $80,000 from you and you didn't even know? Because it happened very slowly over time. Dude, I'd lose it. It's like when Wells Fargo opened that account in my name without telling me and then hid it. They did this for everybody. It was like a whole class action lawsuit. It was a whole scandal. But they opened a savings account for me without telling me, hid the account so I couldn't see it on the website. And like every month or two, or not every month, every like day to every week, depending, they would randomly draw out like 3 cents, 5 cents, 15 cents, 7 cents out of my checking account. And they would toss it into this account that was hidden. So for them on their books, it looked like they had way more deposits than they were supposed to, because they were basically taking it and without consent, taking money out of people's accounts into accounts that they couldn't see. Which, if you're wondering if that's legal, no, it's not. That's why it was like a whole scandal. So like one day I checked it and I don't remember how much I had. It was at the very least hundreds of dollars. I think it was over 1,000 actually. I'm not sure, but it was like hundreds of dollars I found one day because this class action lawsuit came out. And so they unhid all of the accounts as part of this court order. So one day I just had this account in my list of like my checking, savings, and then this new savings account. And I was like, what the hell is that? And I checked it and there was a lot of money in there and I freaked out. And then I looked at the transaction history of that account and I was like, oh my God, they've been pulling out like 3-4 cents all the time for months and months. It was crazy. It was crazy. But that's basically how it works for like some of these scammers that work in businesses as their CPA or something that do this kind of thing, where they'll take the business account, but they'll take $5, $10, $20 out at a time, small enough that for a business, they don't notice, at least not immediately. And that adds up pretty quickly, you know? LMAO, it went from a scam to a cent saving tactic. Yeah, I mean, there's some ways that you, like that savings account for some people could actually be really useful, where it will take out such small amounts every month or every day or every week or whatever that you won't notice you're saving. That was the idea behind it, and that's how they pitched it. They're like, no, we were helping our customers save. It's like, you knew what you were doing. Why else would you hide the account? Like, well, so that people don't get tempted to take the money back out and spend it. It's like, okay, but how do you explain the fact that like literally no one knew you were doing this? Maybe they all forgot. It's just dumb. It's just dumb. Anyway, I'm going to do my taxes. I'm going to get this video launched, by the way. So head over to the main channel. We have a video going up here in just a moment on Cyberpunk and the Overdrive ray tracing stuff. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, buckle up for that. It's going to be awesome. Do I think Apple will ever branch into the gaming market to make gaming laptops, PCs, custom Apple GPU? I don't think so. I don't think they'll ever have like an Apple GPU with the Apple silicon. I just don't see that as being their thing. I do think that they are going to try to find a way to get an Apple, like a Mac Mini variant that's built for gaming, and I think that we could see that. It's a huge untapped market for them. It's kind of a no-brainer if I'm being real, but I think that they'll try something like that, but I don't think they'll sell like, you know, their version of a 4090 that you can plug into a Windows PC. I just don't think they'll do that. HBO confirmed the Harry Potter show. Oh, great. It's either going to be amazing or it'll be hot dog garbage water. I'm leaning towards the latter. I would love for it to be great, but I think it's because they got a taste of that Hogwarts Legacy money, and now they're like, ooh, baby, there's a lot of people who want more of this. And Lord knows we're not getting it from this weird, like, Fantastic Beasts spinoff. So it's going to be edgy. Oh, people are going to freak out. It's going to be really woke. I've had so many people message me in the last few weeks being like, Luke, I want to know if I should play this game. And I never respond to these, because if you send me this message, why on earth would I respond to this? I have like a handful of Twitter DMs of people asking me, hey, should I play Resident Evil 4 Remake or is it woke? Like, what made you think you should message me and be like, hey, is this game woke? I don't want to play it if it's woke. Tell me if it's woke. First of all, I don't even know what woke means. It doesn't seem like anybody really knows what it means. Secondly, why are you messaging me instead of like some random dude on Reddit or something? Go post it to r/MAGA or something. I don't know. Like I don't understand it. I don't get it. I'm not the one to ask, you know? Ask Crimson. Crimson, is RE4 woke? This person on Twitter really wants to know. They're like, I'll play it if it's not woke, but if it's woke, I'm gonna have to pass. I'm like, dude, your life has to be so boring. Yeah, like, imagine having that much free time where you can afford to get pissed off about stuff like that. Like, wow. Last I checked, no. Yeah, exactly. I don't even know what woke means. Nobody does, because it's just like a made-up term for people to use when they get pissed off at stuff. Like, it's just, oh, it's so funny. I mean, someone complained about a girl being less sexy, sickos. Yes, I guess that's woke. I guess that's what woke is. It doesn't tickle my jimmies as much, therefore it's woke garbage. Oh, man. There was a debate about if RE5 would be remade due to being kind of racist. That's what I heard. I think we talked about that on stream because it was like, it's in Africa and people were upset that in Africa you would therefore be killing African zombies, like zombie people. People were like, oh, that's toxic. And we're like, so if the game was set in China, is that now like anti-China because you're killing Chinese zombies? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I don't know. I don't get it. It's above my pay grade. I have no idea. We're just going to play the games and talk about them. I don't care.
It is worth pointing.
I just accidentally hit play on that video. I forgot we had up. Anyway, I'm going to go do my taxes. Much love, everybody. You guys are wonderful. Stay safe out there. I'll be back on Friday. I might be streaming tomorrow night here. It'll probably be a members only stream, just a heads up. But either way, I will see you very, very soon. Go check out the new video up on the main channel. It'll be up in the next 5 to 10 minutes. I love you dearly. And stay safe. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.